Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We, as tradition, return on Bit of Stellaris on Monday. I suppose, hello, Jumping Q. I am well. Great to see you. I suppose I can also say, as is tradition, I'm starting late. And I believe last week I said that I intended to do a good full Stellaris playthrough. I'll do my best, for sure, but I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. I was able to get into work on time and had a reasonably productive day. But that came with it the cost that when I got home, I was very tired, and I kind of knew it was like, okay, well, maybe I'll take a nap. I was like, if I go and take a nap, then I'm probably going to start streaming at like 9, and it'll be a potentially short one. But I thought, sort of, especially right now, when we're going to do a bit of housekeeping at the start of the game, it seemed like that was the more preferable one. I think it'll probably make a little more sense what I mean by housekeeping when we load up the game. A couple of things about the stream. So I noticed we had a big drop. Oh, promise not to ask too many questions this time so you can have a chill time. Oh, not at all, Jumping Q. Again, as I said, and maybe for the benefit, usually this early stuff is for the mod, or not for the mod, for the VOD. But I like it when people ask questions. I mean, I'm not competing on Twitch for, you know, my green eyes and sexual charisma. I don't have, well, I mean, insofar as it's on display. No, I mean, I don't have a cam, and so a lot of my reactions to the game are based on what I say. And especially if you look at my early stuff, like, you can know that I can keep a stream going even if there's nobody inside the chat, or, you know, for whatever reason there's nothing I can react to. But I think one of the most rewarding things for me on a game has been to, you know, put people in a place where they can play something or enjoy something in a way that they wouldn't have before. So a great example of this is Jessie Quill. One of the nicest compliments that she pays me is, you know, I kind of want to play Stellaris, or I kind of want to play Crusader Kings after watching you play. So this is a game that somebody like Jess, who's very sharp, good at games, like definitely somebody who I think would enjoy the game on her own, but finally being in a position to play the game, or at least want to play the game after sort of seeing a playthrough. And I think questions, I mean, there's only so many times you can play a game and not take some ideas for granted. So questions do a very good job of directing those kinds of ideas. You may have noticed I decided to do another playthrough on my own. We will not be playing this one. This is a fun species. One of the few times I haven't written a background for it, but we will be continuing with the Mishar Cooperative. What else was I going to say? Oh yeah, so I noticed a bit of a dip in the follower numbers, which is fine. I think when there's a big growth period on the stream, there tends to be a little bit of clawback, which I can definitely live with. But where was I going with this? I'm sorry, guys. I got sidetracked. Yeah, one of the things that I think is contributing to that, my intention was to stream over the weekend because I couldn't make it on Friday, and I need to do something about that for the schedule, because I don't like sort of. So the challenge with not streaming on a Friday and then not going on the weekend either is. It kind of puts me in a place where I have, well, I mean, one, that basically means 2 days of streaming, which is not great. But on top of that, it's sort of, it it lets things get a little stale. So a good example, I mean, there's some of the clawback on growth was just the, you know, I'm not doing Assassin's Creed regularly anymore, which is a really good one for growth and really enjoyable game. I'll definitely be getting back to it, but I didn't want to become a, you know, an Assassin's Creed only streamer. And I think the, so I need to sort of find the better way of making up for casts that I miss out on. I might even just add another weekday. So like maybe the first part of the week, like Monday through Wednesday are the streaming days, although I kind of like spacing things out. But as always, if you have any feedback on days that you like to watch me and you'd find it worthwhile, that's helpful to me. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the current situation where I find myself. I made, I don't know if I'll call it a mistake, but I'll say a little bit of a misstep last time. I'm getting into the habit of giving away a few too many mining stations without necessarily any gain. So we're a bit low on our minerals gain because I decided to implement sort of these utopian living standards. Where are we? Oh no, these are under species policies. So yeah, utopian abundance is good for bonus happiness, and that definitely dealt with some of our happiness problems in on some of our more further out there colonies. But one thing that I've done, like, so a good example of this would be, at the moment, I don't have any advantage to giving up Megama, Seuxima, Talasis. Now, our sector is currently being taxed at 75%, the highest that you can go, right? So it's not the end of the world. But what I tend to notice is that my production is lower than what it would have been otherwise in a situation where I really don't need the extra energy. I mean, 37 is not a number to get very excited about, but I'm sitting on really nice energy reserves, and I'm going to be able to get more as I colonize some more planets. I think one of the main reasons I did it was just for aesthetics. So the idea here, I don't even remember where my capital is, right here. So Savant eventually is just going to be sort of this lone island in this monolith of a, you know, of a sector, and that's sort of to facilitate some growth, basically westward. What's kind of funny here about this situation is that I just sort of through the alliances and the way everything's worked out. So the Holfair League and the Hanmur Interstellar Nation are currently allies. If I wanted to turn around, I could do something like break the non-aggression pact. They are weak compared to me, especially the Hanmur, actually. Although it's apparently their fleet capacity is equivalent. So I have a feeling that this difference here isn't entirely a technological one. I also think they're missing out on their sort of their utilization of that capacity as well. Thank you very much for that host, Elkanu. How have you been? It's been a while since I've been able to catch your stream. Part of that's just to avoid games that I was planning on playing myself. But I love those emotes, by the way, Elkanu. It's great to see you again. How are you tonight? So yeah, so the natural, we've got some expansion opportunities here. Wild Ore was one. We definitely wanted to capture some territory here so that we could get the 11 minerals on this planet. You could make an argument that I should maybe be looking for some more opportunities in terms of energy. I might use a frontier outpost for something like that. So Irem is a good example here where I'd be getting, that might even be on the sun. Nope. So if I build a frontier outpost, I'll be paying in influence, but I'll suddenly be kind of getting this nice little circular area. Wouldn't necessarily hurt too to make a decision in terms of sort of these little outposts over here. I don't know if the 3 energy on its own is enough to kind of fight for, but I think I'm also going to add... So what we're going to do is we'll see basically... Oh no, I pushed cap lock instead. Okay. I think I'm going to readjust my priorities here. I want to see if it's worth sort of fighting the whole fear for these worlds. But basically what I'm thinking about here right now are I've got one colonization option on its own. At the moment, I'm sort of thinking of blobbing out so I can take more territory, and then we'll worry about sort of building up some of these planets here. I might even kickstart some of my sectors planets just so that they can get some stuff done. My only real expansion option sort of on these border areas here is Ashamax. I mean, it's a fairly sizable world. It's 22, but it is a tundra world. So we've only been able to access those because of our our recent change to cyborgs. So now we're playing The Walking Dead and Tyranny as well. Saw you lurking on Dark Souls 2. Yes, I wanted to participate a little more, El Canoe, but I've tried to avoid the tendency I have. Sometimes I'm not able to stay for a long time on a cast, so I didn't want to speak up at the time. By the way, guys, I do want to get the stream underway, but I've been trying to speak generally before I go through my usual routines with individual planets, but I do want to say a quick word here about El Canoe. You got to see a few of the games that he's streaming right now, so he's indirectly done a better job of sort of letting you know what he's up to than I can. He's currently doing The Walking Dead. I believe it's called The New Frontier. He's doing Dark Souls 2. I had a great time watching his Dark Souls 1 cast. He makes that game very fun to watch. Not that the game is not fun to watch on its own, but he definitely brings something special to his cast of that game. And then he is doing Tyranny, another Paradox game. Very good Paradox game. It was on sale on GOG not too long ago. And if you guys are interested, Pillars of Eternity is in the humble monthly bundle. I never really find them worth it if there isn't a game that you're interested in on it. But if you haven't tried it and you like games like Tyranny, definitely that's one worth checking out. But overall, a great guy, and I encourage you guys to check him out. All right, so as usual with Paradox games, sometimes it doesn't hurt to take a minute, look at things, as I say, stop and smell the roses. And the way that I do Stellaris is I take advantage of the outliner to basically just tick through, my planets. One thing I will mention briefly is this idea of the victory conditions. So we're not going to take a look at the outliner, and one of the things that I'm going to be doing here is just an example of how your circumstances sort of dictate your particular set of priorities. So what we've been doing most recently is like, okay, we're going to generate as much energy as we can, we're going to generate as many minerals as we can, and expanding out our planets has sort of been a way of accomplishing that. But that's not the only... That's basically not the only thing to do. It's not the only way of playing this game, because that, you know, the objective of the game is not to be the one with the most minerals. What will happen is that will put you on the path to actually winning the game. But I can never remember where this tab is. Oh, it's a situation log. But if we go into victory, so there are 3 victory conditions. I believe Federation was added in a patch. So the Dominion victory is owning 40% of all habitable planets. So we will get a little bit further on that once we incorporate the Royal Yanari domains. We might also consider Hulfir would be an interesting one to gobble up at the start, but Hanmur would be a little bit more of an opportunity because right now they're big and weak, and if I can turn them into... So when they're big and weak, there's the possibility that they will build up their fleets and turn into big and strong, and then I have a problem. The alternative is I sort of secure that relationship and they become a solid ally. Right now we've been able to get by with non-aggression pacts. but not making any defensive pacts. And one big reason for that is I tend to find the AI is rather good at dragging me into wars that I don't want to be a part of on defensive pacts. And I'm strong enough to sort of be on my own, so I do it. The next one is Conquest Victory, win the game by conquering or subjugating all other empires. So this is slightly different. You would think that these are one and the same, but the idea here is that if nobody's really been expanding out into the world, one thing you can sort of do is you just sort of take the capital. So this, I mean, you might even think conquest. I don't know if practically, I don't know if domination or conquest is faster. I would imagine conquest is faster. But I've never kind of played through to that end to see whether or not that actually turns out that way. So it seems to me the best thing for us to go towards is the domination victory in terms of habitable planets. It seems like there's a lot. I don't know if presumably the changes that they're talking about regarding habitable planets haven't been implemented in the game yet. These are in the patch notes if you guys are curious, or the development diaries because they're not patches yet. But at the moment, sort of acquiring resources is what we're still interested in, but I think what we should be doing is making a bit of an effort in terms of grabbing habitable planets. And one of the ways that I'm going to achieve that is, as I said, we're going to be going out. So the question is, you know, 13 size desert world versus 13 size Arctic world, right? And there's about a 5% difference in habitability. Maybe one argument here would be that there's primitives, so I can get some science out of this. But one of the biggest reasons for me heading out here is just simply it is another planet for me to add and more borders to put around that. Whereas if I colonize, you know, one of the planets on one of these systems I already own, that's going to put me towards that domination victory. But I can really make those colonies at any time. Unless I lose them in a war, it's not that big of a deal. So with that in mind, sort of our expansion plans are going to be, and what I'm eventually going to start doing with my science ships is taking a look for places that are sort of natural extensions of my borders. That's going to be a little bit harder once we get up to the upper right here. There's no real obvious move between Tiam and Aldib or something like that. You know, if I suddenly run out of options, there's also some other things that I can do, like maybe just try and gobble up. I think these guys actually, the best I can do would be to establish a protectorate. Yeah, so they become vassals once they become strong enough. This is a really interesting idea, by the way. So protectorates I wasn't clear on, but looking at the way this works. So let's think a little bit about how this mechanic works. Protectorates have an independence guarantee from their overlord. They pay 90% reduced tech costs for any tech their overlord knows, and turn into vassals once they reach 50% of the amount of techs compared to their overlord. So this is a way that you can sort of jumpstart your empire, and it puts you on some more even footing so that at some point you can potentially declare your independence if you want to be disloyal. Now, why you'd want to do that with a really strong empire, I don't know. But that's kind of how I see that working. But yeah, what we're going to be looking at is maybe expanding out to Dram, Waldor, and anything else that I can find in sort of the immediate area, and then we'll start filling in the gaps. One of the next things I'll be doing as well is building out this infrastructure and not putting it into sectors. I'm not going to expand these sectors until I'm ready to start colonizing some new planets. So with that in mind, let's just take a quick look at my available planets, make sure I'm doing what I want to be doing on there. My spaceport. So we're building 2 destroyers. That'll be a total of 4 power, and that will take me up to, what, 163? So I can build 3 more. I think we'll just do 1 more destroyer and 1 more corvette. It doesn't leave me any minerals, though, so I'm not even going to bother with the rest of these planets, and we're just going to go on our merry way. Nothing to upgrade on the fleet, just because it's just simply nothing available. I am mildly interested in the fact that I've got 2 flavors of destroyer. Oops. So one has sentinel point defenses. I'm not crazy about that, but we'll work with it. A combination of kinetic and beam, which I'm okay with. And presumably there is a difference in their attack values. Yeah, here we go. So these don't have the point defense. Oh no, these are corvettes, that's why.
System survey complete.
I'm not sure where they count as different. I'm sure there's something very obvious that I'm missing on it, but it's not that. Not really that troublesome. All right, so I've been asleep at the switch. We now have 643 minerals. So one thing that's going to be happening over this particular playthrough is I'm going to be upgrading all of my spaceports. I've been neglecting this for a while, and part of this is just because I'm big enough to sort of be able to afford to ignore it. But I'm generating enough minerals right now to be able to do that. So like a lot of these things are like spaceport level 2s. They don't have things like solar panel networks. So this is again a lot of the low-hanging fruit that I can put towards my empire, which will just simply make things better. Another example would be for a place like Ibica. There's not a whole lot that I can do right now with this planet. This is a really sensible one for me to give over to the AI to control. This is one of the drawbacks, by the way, of the strategy to kind of go out and then double back inside, is that I potentially leave myself with some directly controlled, or with the potential for directly controlled systems, which I've given up in favor of colonizing these areas. I haven't 100% thought about how I'm going to navigate that. But yeah, as I usually do, I just kind of head top to bottom. Oros was a priority in terms of building things up. Oh, I also forgot something I wanted to do in my situation log, which was now that we have humans on, or Mishar on this planet, I want to do an asteroid defense system. So one of the priorities here, this is my capital. Nobody's going to be improving this for me but me. So I wanted to make sure that basically everything was being worked and that people were as happy as they could be, and just generally the tiles are being worked as efficiently as possible. One thing that I like to do on this planet as well is I take a look at the food output. So currently we are producing a surplus of 4, and we are not going to be getting any more Mishar who need more food. So if I had a tile that was generating 4 food, I would switch that into something else. As it is, I've already streamlined my food production so that I'm building 8 here and 6 here. So unless I get sort of like, I don't know, 4 levels of, of food enhancement or something like that, and there isn't a whole lot of sense in like building like hydroponics pods or something like that, most likely we're going to be living with two farms on the planet. Fujiao Prime. So this one's a little unfortunate because I had opportunities to build droids, which ultimately didn't, like, again, there's going to be some Mishars working on tiles where probably a robot would do the job better. We're currently generating -2 food. So I'm thinking probably what I'm going to do here, this droid is going to be producing 4. And we're going to be consuming 1 more with that additional Mishar. So I can actually afford to turf these food tiles in favor of something different. And I think what we'll do, we're generating lots of energy on here. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this one into an energy nexus if I can. Do I just not have this technology? Guess I'll turn that into a power plant temporarily then. We'll definitely switch it out. And I think I'm going to build a mineral or a mining network. So again, the question is why am I willingly, you know, eliminating the opportunity to build food? Well, right now we have a surplus. This planet will be into a surplus once this droid is finished being built. And in fact, that surplus is only going to grow as I upgrade these tiles. But again, I'm gonna divest this planet into the sector. So this is going to be something that the AI can worry about. Ibaka Prime, similar idea. I don't think there's a whole lot that we can do on this planet that we're not doing already, to be perfectly honest. So this is going to be another good opportunity to for me to sort of kick something out. There's an argument for me to like pay for the extra. Oh, you know what's interesting? I probably could switch out this food tile for something different. See, it's a shame to do this, but just think, so just see the reasoning here, right? So we've been made whole as far as this food is concerned. We're going to be able to upgrade a farm. So we're going to be going to a surplus. So first of all, we've got all the biological life that this planet's ever going to have. If anything, it would make sense to get rid of this Mishar in favor of a droid. So in this case, we want to do something that only a Mishar can do. And it would seem to me that the argument here is, all right, so they're able to build an energy grid on this planet. I must have had one on Fujiao already. Energy grids will eventually generate unity down the prosperity tree, so I'm sort of tempted to do this, but the 10% bonus to energy credits doesn't do a whole lot for a planet like this. But I'm going to do it anyway. So again, the idea here is that so food, to my mind, doesn't do enough to merit like massive surpluses. I'd kind of like to get to my storage cap, which is 5,000. But there's other ways that I can get into that. And if I can do things like generate more food. Oh, you know what? I'm going to give myself a deficit once I finish building this mining network. So I'm going to do one upgrade on the food tile. But yeah, to me, the ideal planets maybe have like there's one or two planets in the Empire that have like a small food surplus. And then the remainder, you know, the remainder kind of, sorry guys, I'm completely losing it. The remainder basically turn into, how do I put this? Like, we put them into something different. Maybe this will be not a bad example of me generating it. So I'm going to turn this into a power plant. Eventually I'm going to move this Mishar over here and get a droid to work this tile. I can start building the droid right now. So the idea here is, right now this is generating 1 energy, 1 mineral. I'm going to have to make a decision as to what resource this builds. And I generally prioritize minerals right now. But basically I kind of want to, I'm willing to give up this tile for a, you know, for energy production because I need it anyway. But I kind of want to have the, I guess, the improvement. I want, if the decision is between energy and minerals, I want to prioritize the minerals, and I want to make sure that I have sort of the specialist working on it, because droids do get bonuses in terms of extracting resources. Basically, stuff that you work with your hands with, they do better. This planet is basically ripe for lots of development and lots of improvements. So let's think a little bit about what we're going to do. One thing we can do is sort of plan out exactly how much. We can sort of plan out exactly how many droids we're going to need, because there's lots of opportunities here, right? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 mineral resource, 5 mineral resources that can be used by droids. I don't want to go crazy on building. Well, you know what? We can sort of afford it right now, so I am going to queue up a few droids here. And these are some of my favorite ones to improve because, again, think about what it costs me to build a... Let's even take a really good, like a prime example of a system. So like normally you'd say, okay, 3s are really good to develop. So this is going to cost me 60. Let's actually do the math on this. So it's going to cost me... So basically it's going to cost me 20 minerals for each... for each one mineral that I get. I mean, another way that you could sort of think of that is your return is about 5% in terms of your minerals. Of course, this goes on in perpetuity, so you're okay for that. And then I'm also sort of ignoring the energy cost. But just for purposes of minerals, one of my best options is basically to spend 20 minerals per one unit mined. On this planet, if I build a basic mine, in this case it's going to cost me 25.5 for the one. So in this case, it's actually smarter for me. If I had to spend the minerals on one thing, it would be smarter for me to build it on that 3 tile. If we do the same argument for 2, you notice that you're now spending 30 minerals for each one. And as a result, it might make some more sense to build the basic mine. Now again, in this case, I'm spending about half an energy, whereas I'm only spending 1 energy to get the 3. So energy-wise, it's a slightly better investment to build the mining platform. But again, these are the sorts of things that I think about. This is one of the reasons why my capital was one of my most underdeveloped tiles, is because in the end, to get all this extra production, I was spending more than it would cost me to build those individual platforms. So that's kind of, whether it's Civilization or whether it's Stellaris or anything like that, that's usually the way I sort of go about my decisions, which is what's sort of the best return at the moment. You ideally want to take the low-hanging fruit and then move on to something a little bit more expensive. And of course, because you've been applying that, you're going to have a much easier time getting to those levels. So like right now, even though I just recklessly drop droids all over the place, this is a very wasteful way of building, just because in the end, all of these energy and mineral resources are tied up for things that aren't going to be built for a while. Can I build the zoo yet? No, it needs administrator. A combination of extra sturdy construction techniques and automated defensives should keep the people of Mastonia Prime safe from further asteroid impacts. Splendid. See, I'm not going to be able to do anything too exciting on this planet until I start clearing out those tiles. I'm already repairing the ship shelter. And then I think the next logical step will be to build a hub. Alright. So I'm just waiting for... Well, you know what? My queue's going to take a while with my colony ship, so we're going to play a little bit of cat and mouse with the... So that, for all I know, there could be some really great resources here, but we're not going to know until we start dealing with these baddies. Now, again, it's not bad just taking a moment to reflect on what you're up against. So we've got 2.5, 4.6, 8.6, 11, 14.9k. If we get engaged with all of these things, we are in deep trouble. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to take my fleet and I'm going to sort of skirt around the edges to try and take them one at a time. If I wind up caught by these guys, I mean, there's also an argument for me just not taking these things on yet. But basically, the idea will be I want to sort of skirt them and try and just generally stay. Take them on individually rather than you know, crash in, because they'll obliterate my force. And the nice thing is my force is big enough that I can escape if it comes up to if it comes down to it. By the way, thank you very much for the auto host, Johnny Big Time. Johnny Big Time's been doing Dragon Age Inquisition. He's a lot of fun to watch in general. but in particular his franchise playthroughs have been really successful. I've really enjoyed watching them, and I hope you guys have as well. All right, so prosperity. The real decision I need to make right now is ship logistics or building upkeep. Now, because I've got so many of my buildings locked up in sectors, my logistics might be my larger expense. So let's just take a quick look here. So we're paying 86.77 in energy costs for ships. Yeah, so I definitely go further with my maintenance, with my I definitely go further with my with going for the Navy. And we should get a nice little boost to our minerals as well, so watch these up here. Not bad. See, I got cold feet with this this strike force. There's no, so it strikes me as a particularly, like, the rewards that I can get from claiming this sector right now are very small, whereas the potential cost to me in having to rebuild that fleet is quite high. So we'll maybe save this for another time. What are some of the other things that we can do with the money right now? I do think the spaceport beautification project should probably be a priority. So I think priority number one will be to build spaceports where we don't have them. So we've got some spaceports level 2. We'll keep the faith and continue with the kinetics. I actually don't think that's the smartest idea for spaceports. Engineering facility. The production and understanding of supersolids are of immeasurable value to any and every space-age civilization. All right, so what are my options here? Well, I can go for a higher level of spaceport, which is not a bad idea because we are working on it. I didn't know there was a level 5, so apparently there's Gauss cannons. Those are pretty expensive, all things considered. Crystal-infused plating has actually become viable. So one thing that we kind of I like looking at here, it's like, okay, well, what are my, what are the things I've been sitting on? Carry operations 16 months, deep core mining 29 months. This also won't hurt me in terms of my infrastructure because I definitely think I've been capped a little bit in terms of in some of my developments, especially on the AI controlled ones. Crystal Forge plating doesn't have a major argument for it. I'd be interested in seeing what it gives me. So this would give me 10% to my hull points, but taking 82 months to research that doesn't seem worthwhile. Crystal infused plating, which will give me 5%, will only take the 29 months. With plasteel armor, this will just be a component. So in this case, this just gives me a bonus to armor, which is negated if I have energy weapons going after me. So the real question here, so 34 months, we're looking basically at about five additional months, so half a year, a little under half a year, to get a new ship type. Alternatively, we can get some cool new weapons for our ships, and I think the way I'm feeling about this right now is I'm probably going to be focusing on my fleets for the next little while, so I don't think it hurts. It is going to mean that I put a lot of money into upgrading my fleets again, but we're in a nice place with my cap. I think the way I'm building everything, I think that's a somewhat sustainable path. So I think what we're going to do here is we're going to do things like build a spaceport, hit the cap, upgrade a spaceport, change the cap, rinse and repeat. And I have sort of a natural way of building classes of ship as well as I do that. So I think that's going to be how I sort of take my navy to the next level. So what we're going to do here, we'll find the first planet that doesn't have a spaceport. And I think I'm going to switch to beams now for these. And I think the main reason, so I'm not crazy about missiles, but beams are going to give me a little bit more range for my spaceports. I'm not going to like overhaul all of them, but I was thinking about this a little bit, and Kinetics are good. It's one of my most developed technologies, but it's not one that I don't think it's one that I can really justify the. Oh, my construction ship's free, so let's Oh, and we've got influence max, so it's taking a second here. Actually, let's take a look at my leader's screen before I do anything, because alright, I maxed out there. And apparently I haven't assigned one of my governors, so let's take a quick look at the outputs. Next up, we do the same thing. I have a feeling Oros is already going to have the edicts. Right now I'm focused on minerals, so I'm going to be focusing on production targets over over energy. This is Stenlar. I think Stenlar is the better argument for hitting with production. And that's basically just it's sort of like a release valve for influence until I come up with some better ideas in terms of what I want to do with that influence. It makes sense just to sort of put it into something that'll be generating more of those other resources that I really want. Now, one of the drawbacks for me is that I don't quite know where Combat training, a more extensive training program for new recruits, including realistic combat scenarios, and prepare them for the field. So this is gonna, again, there's two ways that I can get my resources. I can upgrade my buildings, which is becoming progressively more expensive because I'm getting higher tech ones. But I can also lower my costs. This is also the same in the real world, right? So there's a few reasons why games are relatively inexpensive today, right? There has been some price increases. So I can sort of remember a time when it was like, you know, for every big release, you'd be paying about $60. In reality, it's probably more about, so now of course I'm speaking in Canadian dollars. But realistically, you know, now you're probably looking more like $70, sometimes $79. And there's two reasons why that'll happen. So there's the inflation that occurs, right? Over time, things just become more expensive. And I mean, if it's like $50, $60 in the 90s, and it's sort of safe to say that, you know, 20, 30 years down the line, you're probably going to have to see some kind of price changes. And you can go, you know, on StatCan website and take a look and see how consumer prices have changed over time. But so if anything, you know, one question you might ask is, why are video games not more expensive? Which no consumer wants to ask. You know, I'm certainly enjoying a very nice surplus. But one of the things that has driven this is the fact the cost of making games in some ways has gone down. It's not obvious because, of course, we're also in an age where, you know, once upon a time, you couldn't really have conceived of these like Hollywood blockbuster style video games, right? Like the AAAs. The ones that just seem to be employing more people on a development staff than, you know, I think most, you know, even very successful games would have considered, you know, conceivable at the time. So maybe the question is like, why, when you have these massive costs, aren't you seeing sort of the increase in cost? Why aren't consumers paying that? And it's because the technology costs less. And of course, indies are not competing in that $60, $70 space. They are competing sort of at the lower end. And the fact of the matter is that it's, you know, a little bit like in sort of the old days where there were sometimes just one person who was making a game, or maybe a very small group of people making a game. You see that in the indie space now. But when you have something like Unity, or you have something like, you know, even the Unreal Engine or Lumberyard or Crytek or you know, Game Maker Studio, RPG Maker, like all of these things. I mean, maybe I won't include like Game Maker Studio and, well, no, actually Game Maker Studio, because, you know, Gunpoint, Spelunky, these are Game Maker games. Cook Serve Delicious. But RPG Maker, I know there's some examples of like games that have sold well through that, but that one I won't quite put on the same level. But the idea here is that just the style of game and the quality of game that is being produced, sort of the base level is much higher than what you would have expected. You know, if you have to code everything and then do your own art, you don't have a lot of time to put out and put a lot of polish into everything on a game. And yet we still got very good ones. But now, of course, the idea is you measure it across two things. I'm giving a really crappy lesson in economics, basically, right now, is that when you're judging the price, you want to try and keep everything equal. So for instance, if you were to take a look at the prices for games, I would argue that the prices of games as a whole have gone down because we've seen vast improvements in quality. And even things like, you know, just having great looking games that run on hardware that doesn't need to be state of the art is something that I think a lot of people take for granted and don't really factor into it when they're looking at their game prices. So what your $5 to $20 for an indie will get you is really impressive. And one of the things that's enabled that is just better technology in the hands of developers. And I mean, let's face it, people are also building up on a wealth of experience. So none of this has anything to do, by the way, with why I will be studying xenobiology. Studying the life that arises on other worlds and beyond allows us to understand fundamental aspects of biology that were previously beyond our reach. That one, again, I'm making a decision in terms of the time that it'll take to research. So, sort of as I was saying about sort of the inflation point, really was you can see an improvement when it comes to prices, right? Your costs go down, and what you do in response to that is like maybe the product doesn't cost less. Maybe what happens instead is that you take the resources that were freed that used to have to be spent on X, Y, or Z, and instead you sort of turn around and say, oh, okay, well, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to build this thing, which I always wanted to put in, but never had the money or never had the time to do. And that's a similar idea here, which is that, you know, through freeing up the resources for my fleets, I'm kind of turning around and yeah. So this is prime for incorporation into the. Actually, I might as well do it right now, because I can still upgrade the spaceport, but the AI can get to work on upgrading the territory. So again, in Ibaka, the AI ideally is going to be developing out those tiles. Okay, so I need to make a decision now whether I want to go to Dram, Soteria 2A, which I don't think has as big of an argument for right now, just because in terms of what it'll get me, there's a lot of overlap. And I think I said I was going to go for Waldor. One, because it'll give me that observation post. And then in terms of size, they're all relatively small planets. It's a bunch of 11s and 13s. I think I will at some point try to take Ashimax. I mean, it only really gives me energy. It sort of maybe gives me a claim on things like Penic and that. But again, just anything I can do to sort of just grab some more territory. I'm not going to cry too much if I don't wind up getting Banthery 3. There's no rule, by the way, saying that everything needs to be linked up. It's just I tend to find it convenient, especially if you have something like hyperlanes. But yeah, I think that's how I'm going to go for it. I can definitely afford to build some more colony ships. So we'll drop one. If I put it here, I'm going to get some bonuses to minerals. If I put it here, I'm going to get some bonus to research. I think it makes a little more sense to put it here.
Construction complete. Construction complete.
I'm trying to keep an eye on my cap right now. We're at 167. I think the way, so what do we have here? I've got 4 extra. I guess I'll do 2 more destroyers, although destroyers are not always my favorite to build in cases like this. But I mean, we're swimming in corvettes right now. But yeah, when these things finish building, I'm kind of interested in seeing where we grow. I'm also going to start churning out a few more colony ships. If anything, just so I can get up to this directly controlled cap. There's definitely going to be some stuff that I give up eventually. And one nice thing is that if I can keep a little bit of a surplus going, so you know, I'll say I'm adding Dram. I'll probably give up Soteria. Waldor, like there'll be a few pockets of things. Like there's a way that I can sort of manage it out so that I don't wind up doing ridiculous things. Oh, this is going to be a pretty high priority acquisition target, I think. It's nice because I mean, these guys are allies, but if I get a chance to like isolate one of their planets, you know, that's not too bad for me. What am I looking at? I can afford another. Actually, okay, let's just think about this. 1, 2. Well, I mean, with my cap, I can afford 2 more. What about... see, Stenlar I'm already building up on, so Stenlar I'm going to be able to give up in a minute, and I should probably build some colony ships. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a couple more colony ships just to start filling in some of these worlds that I can inhabit. So for instance, Stenlar, I just need to worry about systems. So if I have 3 planets that I can take on a system, that's good for me. It's only going to cost me 1 on my cap. Whereas if I only have, you know, one inhabitable planet for each system, then, you know, I get to fire that bullet once. So I don't want to go crazy on these constructions because I'm also going to be building up my, okay, so 169. How many do we gain? So we basically get 5 more each time we add an upgrade. I'm sure there's a rule somewhere that tells me exactly what it costs to get these things in, so but we are at, so we'll do a destroyer and 2 corvettes. So what's going to happen here is we're going to be at 170 when we finish this destroyer. This is going to take us up to 174, and then we're going to repeat the cycle, and we're going to upgrade to level 2 stations when we can. My construction ship's also been sent to this system with a lot of mineral resources, so this is going to be sort of, it's going to be doing its job for a while. I don't need to worry about keeping some resources set aside to keep this working. Again, one of the big ones for me is not to have things be idle. with the exception here of this inactive building because that's currently being repaired. All right, we're going to have a big bill for upgrading our fleets before too long because we have a lot of lasers. The X-ray laser will basically put our energy weapons on par with our kinetics. That's the reason why I researched it. Now, we don't have psionics abilities, but apparently if we can get Zro, that'll be really good for us. In this case, I'm going to go for my cheapest option. It's very tempting to go for energy credits, this industrial technology, but again, it's going to cost me 80 months to build. But extended combat algorithms, again, my ships. One thing that's worth mentioning, by the way, I've always struggled trying to come up with good fleet compositions, but if you want an idea in terms of how the game thinks about the different ships, take a look at these different components here. Okay, so this is advanced combat roles. This is the next version of that technology. By the way, when I say cheapest, there is also hyperlane mapping, but advanced combat roles will help me with the fact that I want my fleets to be stronger to take on these crystals, whereas hyperlane mapping is sort of a, well, what if I go toe-to-toe with one of these empires at some point? I should also, you know, I should try and make a decision in terms of whether or not I want to fight somebody relatively soon. We'll take a quick look at how everything's set up. But like, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for me to try and, you know, try and vassalize something on the right-hand side of the universe just so I can, you know, I can expand my power. I mean, again, I've got a big fleet, and because I currently have an advantage in terms of my ability to wage war, I should be trying to take that opportunity when I can. Anyways. So advanced combat roles. So the way that it thinks about here, I think this is the Corvette. So improvements to evade, combat speed plus 20%, swarm behavior. The ship will charge at the enemies and try to deal as much damage as possible. Destroyer, again, improvement to, this time to tracking instead of combat speed, but improvement to chance to evade. The ship will have a balanced approach between offensive and defensive. Cruisers. Chance to hit +4, fire rate 10%. A ship will have a balanced approach between offense and defense. And battleships, weapons damage plus 10%. The ship will stay at range and fire its long-range weapons on the target. So further advances in predictive algorithms allow for augmented tactical decision-making on the field. So, I mean, most of these things you probably wouldn't need to be told in terms of how to use these fleets anyway. But it's just a little, it's kind of a little... It's a little way that the game tells you internally how it thinks about itself, right? This is kind of a little bit like when I was playing some of those adventure games. You know, some of the puzzles rely on you thinking about the world the way the game thinks about the world. And once you can sort of get into that, and sometimes you just need to pick up the hints from what the game is telling you, you can say, oh, okay, that's what, you know, that's what Corvettes are for. That's what, you know, cruisers are for. I definitely don't like doing missiles on anything except a, kind of a ship that that stays at range and is able to sort of have a mix of weapons. Because the big thing about missiles, right, is that they take a while to travel. And so it's possible if like your entire fleet gangs up on one Corvette and they fire just volleys of missiles at them, what winds up happening is there's a lot of wasted damage just because the, you know, the thing's already been destroyed, but there's, you know, 50 missiles that are still on their way to the target. And again, the ship's going to be firing at the target that it thinks is best, even if it's about to be destroyed. So... who wound up unemployed? Ah, it's the guy in the capital. Well, we can put him to work at other things. So I don't think we can build the zoo yet. Can build a power plant. And I don't have a place to clear the... this is going to be where my, my monument goes. Speaking of which, I should take a look at these planets and see... whether or not they have the monuments. I also need to make a decision in terms of what I want to do with this tile. So I've got a food shortage, it looks like. I was a little reckless in how I handled that, but... So my decision here with Stenlar, I need to decide whether or not this is going to be one that I keep in my empire or I give over. This seems to make a lot of sense to give up. One thing, this is one of the systems that I wanted to turn over to the AI as quickly as I could. Okay, we're now at 176. We've got 4 coming in. So I've got 2 to fire. I think, again, I'm going to alternate between 1 destroyer and then 2... Well, I'll build 2 corvettes in anticipation. I think I'll bump the speed up a little bit.
Construction complete.
Okay, so we gain 3, 6. Do we gain 6? I think in this case I'm just going to keep doing that pattern of destroyer 2 corvettes, destroyer 2 corvettes for the next little bit.
Complete.
One reason I'm doing this here, by the way, is that I have...
Colony established.
Okay, this is one thing I want to work on. I'm doing this because I have sort of different kind of assembly yards and such. Actually, I should be upgrading this just so I can get the destroyer assembly yards and make my money go a little bit further. Okay, so I've got a new world. Priority number 1 will be to clear the tile blockers that I can. I definitely want to put my droids to work on these tiles. I think I'm going to live with this for now. Oh, and I've got a colony ship, so I should decide where I'm going with that. I believe I said I was going to take it to Akamar. The nice thing about that is we might even be able to push them so that I can wind up taking this planet as well. So this is going to cause some problems with this species. They've got a plus 120, 122 opinion, and currently we're at we get a minus 13 because of the border friction. One thing that I can do to sort of upset the balance of power is if I break some kind of truce with them. Oh, this is really interesting. So apparently their fleet power is equivalent to mine, but their naval capacity is inferior.
System survey complete.
These are the sorts of things I need to be careful about because I'm going to find myself eclipsed by some of these species before too long if I'm not careful.
Construction complete.
All right. So again, I don't want idle resources, so I'm going to try and send this off to do something productive if I can. And how are the colony ships coming? So I'm going to have a surplus of 1 right now. And I think we're going to try and keep this level. So I'm going to wait until I have 360 minerals to build another another spaceport, and then we're gonna start moving up. Once I'm at level 3, I'm gonna start considering maybe building another type of... Oh, you know what? I can't because I haven't researched it. I'm also mildly tempted to build another science ship. I know right now they're currently helping research, but I don't really have the leader capacity for it, but I've got a few anomalies which haven't been researched. They're just simple little level 1 ones, but that might get me my final precursor civilization. One other thing I could probably do for efficiency as well is I don't need to build... So the argument for building the...
Research complete.
The argument for building these... the military ships are because I've got the Corvette assembly yard, so I get the speed and cost boosts. But that doesn't exist for the colony ships. The colony ships I could build anywhere. So I'm kind of mismanaging my resources in that sense. Alright, Biolab's done. Galactic Administration is a very tempting one because an additional civic slot is something that will really help my... it'll really help sort of some of my bonuses. That's one that I'm willing to put some time into. So that's a 64-month research project. Regenerative hull tissue, less important. 106. Now again, it's a really cool bonus. It's a huge project, and there's other things that I can improve on. So there's definitely an argument for something like the living state, just so I can get some more leaders. I can maybe either have more people governing my planets, or I can have more science ships just sort of flying around. I don't really want to boost the naval capacity because I'm already naturally growing through my my spaceports, and we're going to be getting a spaceport level 5 before too long. So I think I'm going to bite the bullet, and I'm going to go for Galactic Administration. It's going to take me a while, but I think it's going to be something that pays off with that additional civic slot. It says, the administrative needs of the Star Empire are numerous as they are complex. We will rise to the occasion.
Research complete.
And here I want to build the destroyer. Well, I can go straight to battleships. That's a 78-month project. 58 months for impulse thrusters. Or I can start clearing out some of these technologies. I think I am going to go for deep core mining, just because I think that's going to creep up on me as this as these systems start developing. Okay. So they've got a new colony ship. So I'm going to be maxing out my colonies right now. So what we'll do is we're going to start inhabiting... What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be building out the worlds where I kind of get freebies. So Stenlar is an example of this. How's Oreb doing on its development, incidentally? Oh, I'm not gonna be able to give that up for a while. Jaltham's a good example of this because this is something that the AI needs to handle. Altava is another example. Trappist, you know, had something that I could have built on. Gorham. So I probably want to build, all told, You know what? I can just mouse over this. Okay, 2, 3, 4, technically 5.
System survey complete.
So what I want to do is I want to build 4 Mishar colony ships. And I've been meaning to do this for a while. There's just some nice, relatively inexpensive energy. So 4 Mishar colony ships and then one droid one. I do need to be a little conscious of my energy costs as well. These colony ships don't do their work for free, but I think I'm okay. I am also sort of hoping that Akamar sort of builds itself out quickly enough that once the Pathfinder's done its survey, I'm going to be able to dump a colony ship onto this one. I think, yeah, I should pretty much do an all hands on deck for taking this world as well. Yeah, we got 1 more point on border friction, but this is where I need to start being a little careful now. Oh, I totally stole that from them. That's fantastic. So notice here there's like mining stations and that. Because these were in my territory, this is one thing that you want to do. So if you have like a border, sort of a border world, so let's say Breglar, and for whatever reason it seemed like the Holfir were going to be expanding, I'd actually potentially want to destroy my mining station, just because it would be like all of these things I didn't need to pay for to develop, and yet I own them now because I grew fast enough.
Construction complete.
And I want to be a little mindful on my science resources.
Construction complete. Construction complete. Construction complete.
Lots of construction coming online. So, Stenler is already being worked on. I think in this case I am gonna go.
Construction complete.
I'm gonna go aggressive on this territory. I might need to build some kind of like frontier outpost somewhere around here. All right, my construction ship's idle, so let's find something for it to do. I'm prioritizing territories that I hold myself first. I should also probably build some research output. Oh yeah, I also forgot to take a look at what my mandate was. Oh my god. I don't know how long this research has been. Oh, we just finished. Okay. So we've got our new combat roles. Again, so if you want to see what the bill is for researching new military technology, it can be quite high. I don't usually upgrade my fleet sort of in these intermediate times, because what might happen, like if I research the new level of combat roles or something like that, then that's just going to annihilate all the work that I did before. I'm going to pay for an upgrade that I didn't use, and then I'm going to pay for the next upgrade. So, and again, those resources can be used in other ways in the interim. I should do approve assist research, because I got a couple of dedicated ships doing that right now. It's a fairly inexpensive one, so I get another draw from the deck. I feel like I should be moving this person into uplink miniaturization, save for the fact that this is a really good researcher, and actually, I can make this work. Oh, there's actually a few changes that I want to do here. Okay, so I've got a level 5 scientist on one of these ships. There we go, so the Pathfinder. There's no other ways that this person can improve, and they are a voidcraft and rocketry expert. So I want them in the lab as soon as possible. The whole point on sending them out on research was to improve their skill. I'm thinking, so we've got commanders. We'll throw him into physics research. Okay. So, we're going to put Meredith Brinkman on. So our specialization is in computers, so now we've moved up to 50% here. I'm going to put Hui Pan on society research, and this is because he's got Spark of Genius. This makes me regret not going for that next level of space ships, because Martin Morris is quite good at Voidcraft, which is the one for spaceships. But if you, so this will be easier if you're watching the VOD, but if you check before, you'll notice that all the percentage bonuses to research, everything's better. So this is just, again, little efficiencies that you can do if you keep an eye on sort of who you have doing certain tasks. They tend to build pretty quickly. I hate the fact that I've got a semi-idle queue right now. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to kill these destroyers and corvettes. It's going to put a lot of money in my coffers. The reason for that is so I can do the spaceport upgrade right away. And what I'll be doing is I'll be building destroyer assembly yards. I'm not sure if I want to do any of the others. I might even kill my solar panel network in favor of doing a fleet academy. I am going to do that, actually. Gotta wait for the spaceport upgrade to finish. In the meantime, we're going to take the opportunity to... I'm just going to get a notepad out, because I have a feeling that this is going to be one of these moments where I have the... Actually, Alexis Kennedy had a wonderful term for this. He's the guy who is one of the founders of Fail Better Games. A wonderful Twitter account, if you don't follow it. So, he says that sometimes these games suffer from a, why did I go upstairs, I guess, syndrome.
System survey complete.
I should not be installing a notepad program while I play this game. Sorry guys, I'm just going to pause for a second. So we're at 196. I'm just writing myself an IOU on ships. So what is it? 22... Alright, actually that's fairly straightforward. So that's basically... so like 11 corvettes. 5 destroyers. No point in not pursuing these upgrades. And surface-wise, I don't normally like being paused during stuff like this, but obviously a bunch of things happened while I was installing things. Okay, so here's a great example of where I should be handing this planet off to the AI. Where is... Where is this planet? Yes. Okay. So what I'm going to do here, planets and sectors. So there's always the danger here that I wind up giving up too much. So let's see what happens to my numbers. So 216.41. Yeah, I was okay with that. The bigger loss was for my minerals. Unlike last time, I'm not going to savage my like my resources. I might even try clawing back a little bit. I need to see how the final shape of the empire looks. But like a good example here would be Sueo. There isn't a good reason for me to have given this up, right? Because it's not going to connect me to any planets that I want to. It's not going to connect me to any planets that I sort of want to. I eventually want to give up, and it generates pure energy. Actually, as much as I hate doing this, I think I'm going to do a little bit of cleanup. So this is a very wasteful way of. It's a very wasteful way of doing management, but I think that's the only one I'm gonna do actually, because eventually I'm gonna give up Oreb. Magram, Beiruta seems like one that I would give up to the sector. But yeah, like Magma, Impan, like I only need to make the one, like what I could see as being a slightly more logical distribution would be like I keep these for the capital for now, and I like give up Sturiel and Cordria to go for Uzun. So that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I do need to give up a colony though. And in the meantime, I'll also take one of my new spaceports, and I will build a colony ship with that. In fact, I'm going to use this to churn out. So I'm going to get a colony ship for this planet for sure, and then I'm going to finally fix these other colonization options. So I've got one here. One there. One there. One there. So this colony ship's idle, unfortunately, because I still need to survey the... Oh, actually. Hello, Elsie! How are you doing? Sorry for the late start. It's always good to see you, though. In this case, I'm going to place the colony on the energy because I believe as long as it's put on energy, it's not going to sort of uproot the... I don't believe it uproots the existing resource. So in terms of this overall shift that we've done, so right now we're spending a lot of money upgrading a lot of our stations. Once Oros has done its spaceport upgrades, I can put in the destroyer assembly yards. Actually, let's just get this out of the way right now. So I need 5 destroyers. I got 4. Oh, you know what? I'm tying up those resources when they'll be cheaper with the destroyer assembly yard, so I still need to hold off on that. So what's basically going to happen? Oros is going to be cranking out ships, and this is going to be after they've finished with the fleet academy, the destroyer assembly yards, and such. My other planet's going to crank out colony ships, but the majority of these colony ships are not going to be ones that sort of cost me personally. What's going to be happening is I'm going to be doing some colonization on planets within the sector which haven't been dealt with yet. So I've sort of reoriented my empire in order to get back to the the colony cap, but also to sort of maximize my opportunities in terms of extending my reach. So whether or not I decide to build a frontier outpost here is, that's a question, but I feel fairly safe in terms of the territory that I've grabbed. Like maybe, like Dram is fairly safe. Ashimax, I may not get. Maybe I will. But this is just an example where, again, we've sort of said that getting habitable worlds it's a victory condition. It's also one that helps us get the resources through which we can further expand. And so in this particular case, I've made an effort to, just try and, I guess the biggest thing here is that I've tried to prioritize in the places where I think the opportunity won't be there forever. So for instance, if there was something inside here, like maybe Hazra or Othana, like at some point I might want to consider building a frontier outpost here just so I can sort of seize these resources. That wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to do, by the way. I have a feeling I can't... I wonder if there's a way... Yeah, actually... So there should be a way I can potentially bribe them for Wasset. I'm a little curious. A long research agreement.
Research complete.
Yep. Yeah, so there's no amount that I could demand for this. So yeah, if I wanna take these, I have to buy. I basically have to take it through force, which is not a bad time right now to just take a look at relative powers. And hello, Johnny Big Time. It's always great to see you again. So the stagnant ascendancy, not surprising at all that they're superior, or so overwhelming. However, it is very interesting that their naval power has now gone down one level. So we're nowhere near to being able to take on these guys, but there is sort of a point where we can see that these guys are not overwhelming, right? These guys don't remain unconquerable forever. We were talking about your Dragon Age playthrough, Johnny Big Time. I'm having a really good time with it. And I think, as I said, from the first game, like I really wanted to play after, I kind of wanted to play after, after I watched you do it. Okay, so these guys are potential friends, but they don't seem to want the defensive pact. This seems to be mostly driven by the fact that they're isolationists, so there's not a lot that I can do. It is good news, though, that I'm on good terms with my closest rival. They've got a population of 105. It's funny in this game, like, population really does a good job of sort of indicating how strong you are. So, I mean, we've got 255, 154 of which are actually people. These are 105 of the actual species. So yeah, fleet powers, all of these things seem to be in pretty decent shape. I'm a little curious for cases like this. So for this Spookslack's Alliance of States, cute starfish. These are the ones that where I'm kind of like, I wonder if I can vassalize them. But good relations don't seem to be the operative. I was wondering if you can like steal a vassal. But yeah, so it looks like there's kind of people who've already sort of been gobbled up. The Jurin are relatively small, so in this case, if we want them to be vassalized, neutral attitude and distance is going to make that impossible. I think realistically what's going to be happening here is if I want to gobble up a if I want to gobble up some, you know, some species or whatever, it's going to have to be, it's not going to be through diplomatic means. It's basically going to be it's going to be it's going to be military. However, we now have this magic day. I don't know when we hit it, but under the watchful eye of Chancellor Ilma Sven, we are here to keep our society free of xeno influences outside of the royal Inari domains. In this case, we are going to integrate the subject. I've never done this before, but we'll be adding 102 people formally to our empire. So it'll take 176 months. It'll take a lot of influence, but I am 100% willing to spend that. Oh my. So, I hate to do this. Oh, this is such a good one. And I don't think there's a way for me to get more from my factions right now.
Research complete.
Okay, so for 179 months, I'm losing... Well, you know what? I can afford that. I don't want to be doing any other influence things. But I can live with this. Because if you think about it, right? So we're at 897. It's going to take me 170. So if I'm losing, we'll just round it off to say that we're losing 0.5. So in the end, this is going to cost me about 100 influence. So as long as I don't spend this thing recklessly, I'll be fine. All right, so we've got some new... Ooh. I always look at this thing, whenever it says dangerous technology, I'm like... So, I think everybody knows where this is heading, right? Sentient AI, dangerous technology, evolving intellects, advanced science, not only as subjects of studies, but as researchers themselves. So, it'll give me a plus 10% to research speed, 50 months. So, I mean, basically, it's threatening Skynet. So what are my alternatives? I can do Energy Nexus. It's not a bad one. So Energy Nexus will be 32 months. Sentient AI will be... See, just for how interesting it would become, I kind of want to do this. Ah, screw it. I'm going to do it. This is probably going... I'm probably going to regret this. And this is an economy choice. So this is going to cost me 14 months, but this is mostly because I'm going to be building cruisers before too long, so... So I'm not actually going to be building any cruisers just yet. I want to max out everything at my like level 4s. But we'll be heading toward we'll be heading to that fairly quickly, I think. Next up, I've got a little bit of a surplus, so I think the question is, do I go straight for the spaceport upgrades? Actually, you know what? I think at the very least I want to get things up to Spaceport 4, so this seems like a very easy and inexpensive way to lift myself to sort of where I wanted to be, and by then Oros will finish sort of its construction. Also, got some upgrades I can do on my capital world. One question I have is whether or not I want Stenlar to sort of to activate. Where's the Kathiri League? I'm kind of tempted to support their independence against these guys, because they're weaker than me in every way. If I were to declare war on them, so I couldn't outright vassalize them. I would have to... vassalize their... I mean, what I could do is I could take like some borderlands of theirs. I mean, it's tempting, but at this point, I'm going to be using the opportunity to build out my fleets, and then we can maybe consider picking on some people. So, all right, have a good one, Elkanu. Sorry, I know this was a little bit more of I think this is a little bit more of a ponderous stream. I hope you had fun, or as much fun as you can on a boring stream like this. It's always good to see you. And again, folks, Elkanu is a very talented caster, so if you have not checked out his stuff, I do highly recommend it. One thing I have been neglecting, of course, are my sort of these worlds. Just because I'm building up my capacity on other places. Let's switch that around, put this guy on energy generation. Just because I'm building all of these spaceports doesn't mean that I should be allowed to ignore other priorities. I think I'm gonna switch this around a little bit. I can afford to have some slack in terms of my food at the moment, just because oh, while an asteroid falling on your planet can be nerve-wracking, Stenlar Prime has been rather fortunate. No harm has befallen the colony. So I'm gonna say we must find a way to stop this, or our people will endure this harsh environment.
Situation log updated.
I'm just taking a quick look at how I've sort of oriented my population. There's definitely no shortage of food on this planet. So like, again, the way things are set up right now, I can sort of afford to run some food deficits so long as I make up for it later on. So like, for instance, if you look at this here, right, surplus, right now I've got a food deficit, and that's unfortunately going to be permanent. Oh no, that's not, because I can upgrade the farm. Actually, I don't think that'll cover me though. A combination of extra sturdy construction techniques and the automated defenses should keep the people of Stenlar Prime safe from further asteroid impacts. It was tempting, of course, to get the bonus to mineral resources, but this is one that has Mishar on the planet, so I don't want my happiness to fall too too far. But again, the name of the game with all of these colonies has not just been to claim the territory, but it's been to,
Construction complete.
it's also been to, you know, to develop them and to sort of be able to acquire resources. So like I said, I never want to be in a situation where I don't have tiles being worked. And in these cases, because I've got a nice big energy surplus, I'm willing to, you know, to queue up a few androids. This is basically going to be an android planet. Okay, should have been clearing these long ago. I never realized how beneficial there's a technology that you get which or a tradition that you get which basically allows you to clear tiles for free. That thing is heaven sent. Making an android planet right as we research sentient AI, this cannot go wrong. I mean, Johnny, if you want to see something that should keep all of the Mishar up at night. I mean, the thing is, these people are already cyborgs, right? So it's not like the robots are not already taking over this society. Oops. There we go. But in terms of demographics, so 40% of the population are robots. But yeah, this is the name of this species now is the post-Mishar because they no longer like they've interfaced so much with the with technology. There's a big project that we did, and basically they ceased to be. Oh my God.
Construction complete.
I do not envy the job that the AI has to set that up. Do I really want to?
System survey complete.
I could. You know what? I will actually change this with a hydroponics farm. I feel a little dumb doing it, but I do kind of want to balance these things out. Okay, let's get more resources. First of all, I do need to take a look. Orbital research mandate. So let's build one more research station. Again, this is the thing I love to see, a bunch of bars going up. We've got a nice big surplus ourselves. Spaceport, so now the time, I now actually have to pay for all of these things that I said I was going to do. Oh, actually there's one more that I want to do. Crew quarters. And I wrote myself an IOU saying that I needed 5 destroyers and 11 corvettes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so 10 corvettes. After I build those, I'm going to have to think a little bit about... we need to think a little bit about what I do with the rest of the naval capacity, because clearly I've got a big gap. Ooh, we got another colony ship. So we're heading to Jaltham. This one will go to Taba 3. Lots of options here. Feel like the big boost to science is the better way to go here. So we're sort of getting back on our feet in terms of minerals. I am a little concerned about energy, but some of that is also stemming... Oh no, it used to be stemming from the fact that I had these colony ships out. I should probably consider... building up some energy resources before too long. Because I have a feeling I'm going to get into a pretty hefty deficit if I'm not careful. We've got a couple of bits of low-hanging fruit, so Mihil, Yobhanir, and then we've also got some tiles that we can develop here. But again, this is just a question in terms of just making sure that I'm managing what I have well. So I've maxed out my home world. I'm tempted not to do the AI's job for it on Stenlar, but I also know that Stenlar has,
Colonization in progress.
like, Stenlar Prime is being developed right now. So I don't know if it makes a ton of sense to sort of stunt its growth while I get my act together. I definitely have some energy resources that I can develop here.
Construction complete.
I think what I might wind up doing is just building droids on all the tiles where I want them, because I can afford to do that right now. And we'll see where the rest of it goes. So okay, well, let's think a little bit about this planet. So definitely gonna have a droid here no matter what. Okay, so realistically, we're going to need to support. So we're consuming 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. As per Chancellor Ilmas Fenn's mandate, additional research stations have been constructed. This gives us 250 influence. I believe this will actually put us back in a surplus. Or back to the cap, but
Colonization in progress.
we are currently in a negative, so while I'm at it, I think I'm just gonna, this may not be the optimal choice, but I'm gonna just set everything up for these energy resources. Keeping an eye also on any of these colony ships that become available. Okay, I owe you 4 corvettes. So when I made this plan, we had basically a cap of 100 and I think it was like 196 or something like that. So I definitely have got a production schedule which was designed under some slightly different circumstances. I do think there's an argument for me to build a frontier outpost on Othana, but I don't want to do that until the integration is finished. So until the Royal Yanari domains become part of my empire, I'm not gonna spend any more influence. Now, there's one thing that I didn't mention here, which was, oops. Okay, I gotta do something on Stenlar before too long. Where's this civilization? Wait, did my construction ship not build a... Yeah, build an observation post. These are fun. So, the Clat are a late medieval primitive civilization. So we can have some options. Like if I wanted, I could abduct these guys. All right, so we've got another colony ship, so we will continue on. This one has a Mishar on it, so we're not going to colonize the uninhabitable planet, but we will go up and colonize the other world on Trappist. These ones I feel relatively safe doing, and the main reason for this is because the AI controls these planets, so it's basically their problem. Okay, cruiser assembly yards. Establishing new standards for the modeling and construction of cruisers greatly improves the efficiency of the production pipeline. So I'm not going to be able to use that until later. And I have decision time, so I can build carrier operations. So this allows me to sort of unlock fighters as part of my navy, or I can take the fact that I've got a voidcraft specialist at 5 stars, age 66, so relatively young. I can spend 86 months to research battleships, which will give me another just massive leap, a great leap forward, if you will. This is actually a really strong, this is a really strong scientist. Like voidcraft and rocketry is pretty much everything that I want right now. I could do Impulse Thruster for 65. That'll improve. Like, I really like it for its evasion. But I think in this case we're gonna go for broke. In this case, I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna go for some heavy investment in my navy right now. And again, I'm gonna take the opportunity just to see the state of all of these worlds. So I need to figure out. So in terms of human jobs, for sure, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right now. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I definitely need to account for 10 food. It's going to be 6. I think this will be sufficient. So I can build a mine here.
Colony established.
Oh, an active building. Oh, it's because somebody migrated out. Hello, Nubasaur. How are you doing? So I'm again gonna do something a little wasteful right now, which is just to sort of gobble up all these spots for robots. So I'm gonna get a quick look. So engineering's still the laggard. I want to build at least one energy grid on every planet I can. The main motive for that is I want to, if I can, I want to be getting the Unity bonus that will be coming. Oh, actually, oh no. That should be coming from the Prosperity wing.
Construction complete.
All right. Is there anywhere else I want to build a droid? I'll probably turn these into mines. I'm going to think a little bit about where my energy is sitting on this planet. But for now, as long as the Mishar keep sort of being put on these useful science tiles, I'm going to keep building my my robots. All right. I think we'll do a similar exercise here. So realistically, what are we looking at for population? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, hang on. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 food. Okay. So I'll take care of the food. We've been approached by a delegation from the subterranean aliens on Trappist Secondist. It seems their empire has fallen on hard times recently, and they are facing a threat of famine. They are pleading with us to provide whatever assistance we can. Well, presumably they would need food, not energy for that, but yes, I will give them the 100 energy credits because that costs me nothing. This really isn't that exciting of a mining world. I think I'll build a processing plant anyway. So here I'm just kind of, I'm reserving some spots for the droids. Can I build the zoo yet? Yes, I can. This will also help with the happiness, because these people are not too crazy about living on an Arctic world, it seems like. All right, we got another colony ship, so let's send that out to Gorim. And I think that takes care of my expansion for the next little while. I'm sure I had this droid working. Oh, right. That's why.
Construction complete.
Of course, with sentient AI, or I don't know if sentient AI is going to give me anything special that that will allow me to do, you know, weird and wonderful things with my droid. I don't know if there's like a higher level of droid that will not have the penalties to working energy tiles like my current guy. So I might be just sort of subject integration begun. The United Jasonex Systems has started to integrate the Kathiri League. All right. Well, this is a time where I need to make a bit of a decision. So they're inferior in every way. If I wanted, I could go to war and sort of use it as an opportunity to... So ostensibly what this would be is... so I've got 31 months basically to try and take these guys myself. Are you seeking to sow discord between us and our overlords? Alright, yes I am. Thank you, Postmishar. When the day comes for the Kathiri to rise up, we will remember this. So at this point, at any moment, I could be thrown into a war. So in preparation, we're at 191 of 236, so basically have 45 to work with. Let me just think a little bit about this. Gotta go, ready for sleep, buddy. See you guys all around. We'll look you until you fall unconscious. Sounds good, Johnny Big Time. Again, this was a little bit more of a mechanical one. I don't think it's not instructive, but it's definitely a little bit of a more low-key Stellaris game tonight. So I hope you had fun, though. And guys, again, just a reminder that Johnny Big Time is doing some wonderful things on Twitch right now. So he is another one who I strongly recommend. Strongly recommend to follow for. You know what? I think I'm just gonna do 10. I'm gonna do 10 destroyers and like 20 corvettes and see what happens. So my IOU. 2 destroyers. 10 corvettes. I mean, one of the other things here is like I need to very seriously consider this this incorporation thing. 30 months. I mean, I'm probably not going to be able to finish the war in that time. So, realistically, though, right? It's one planet. So, if they want to kick it off, they can. I think, though, my opportunity to liberate them, I think I lost that opportunity a while ago. Oh, I have been neglecting my surface, so, but while we're at it, IOU 1 destroyer. I always find the destroyers a little hard to budget for. Corvettes, I can just, like, I sneeze those things out, but... back to the surface. All right, let's move that over. All right, this is sort of proceeding as I wanted it to. I mean, working as intended right now. There's not a whole lot happening, but I'm not sure. Like, so I don't have anything to build here. Anything else that I build will be. Oh, hang on, that's not entirely true. Yeah, I don't want to just build things for the sake of it because these are resources I can be spending on these are resources that I could be spending on building like more ships. But with that in mind, I sort of want to. The one thing that happened when I neglected a few of my territories was I wound up with too many Mishar working on tiles where droids could have been working. And the important thing here is that on these, Jesse Quill, thank you very much for the host. How are you doing? For these winter worlds where the happiness isn't like necessarily the best, I kind of want to be careful in terms of I want to be careful in terms of how many Mishar are being sent to these planets, basically. Just got back from the gym. I keep forgetting this concept of 24-hour gyms. Jess has seen what I look like in real life. She also knows that I don't really know that much about the concept of a gym. But that's cool. I hope you had a good time. We've been fairly productive in Stellaris today. It's been a somewhat muted stream. One big thing we'll accomplish is we'll probably be incorporating our vassal into our territory, which is going to open up some expansion possibilities for us. We're currently sort of supercharging our fleet. Yeah, I mean, I think the rest of it's just going to be... the rest of it's just going to be trying to build on our advantages, trying to maybe pick some fights where they make sense, but not go to a point... Like right now, I like the idea of just building this unstoppable fleet and then just sort of pushing through, you know, pushing through some of my most obvious conquest targets. So, how are you doing, Kraken? All right, so I'm continuing down the prosperity tree. The big question is whether or not I want to put the money to building upkeep or colony ships. I'm not crazy about doing this one, but it is an immediate benefit to my resources, especially energy. This will give me a bit of a shot in the arm as far as energy goes. It is a shame though, because being able to get the unity from energy grid and any energy nexuses is not a bad one at all. As it is though, like just this is 2 down, and like the private colony ship doesn't give me a whole lot off the bat. So in this case, the benefits from my my upkeep reductions are something that's going to accrue over time, and so the earlier I get it, the more I can benefit. That's very nice to hear, Kraken. I hear Home Depot is very good if you want to be a student. I was debating on it when I was in university, but I wound up getting a job as a TA, so I was pretty happy about that. But good for you. I'm glad to hear things are going on. Now, I feel like I've asked you this before, but I must admit I don't remember the answer. What are you in school for again? So I'm just trying to remember if I did my IOU. Anyway, sorry. So I will do administrative operations. Our empire continues to grow. Eliminating corruption and inefficiency is of critical importance. There's no corruption in the space communism. Oh, very nice, Kraken. So I guess these... I was wondering if those emotes that you dropped were your own. These credit drains must be plugged. So we're going to be paying up for these next 2 ones, unfortunately. It's not obvious to me where we go next. So Harmony is nice because of the fact that I am getting into some happiness problems in my empire right now. Ah, fair enough. domination would have been good, except for I don't have any vassals now, and I'm probably not going to be getting them for a while. So I think probably the path that I'll wind up going down will be, I'll finish prosperity, I'll probably move on to supremacy next, and then harmony. But hey, Starbright Knight. Oh, I forgot. So Galactic Administration's finished. Oh, Jess, this is another thing I forgot. So we are currently researching sentient AI. Do you want to guess what the red bar means? In the meantime, okay, Doctrine refit standards. This will save me a lot of money. All these other ones look really great, especially something like genetic modification, because I love this idea of, you know, on the right-hand side, we've got like a completely cybernetic species now, and on the left-hand side we are altering our genetic makeup. But in this case, let's keep our expectations a little bit more managed. We're gonna do we're gonna decrease our ship upgrade costs. But we do get a new civic. So under government, we will reform the government. So I could go to oligarchy. I don't think there's a major reason for doing so. So the thing, I think what we lose, as you can see here, is Beacon of Liberty. Now, monthly unity of 15% is really tempting. But let's see what our other options are. So we've got meritocracy, increasing leader skill levels and pool size. Technocracy, bonus to research alternatives. I mean, we've kind of had to like throw away a couple of technologies, but I'm okay with that. Police state, well, I guess that depends on what kind of communist we go, right? Yes, red bars mean dangerous technology. Now, I don't think they give you technologies in the game that just deliberately screw you, so I have a feeling that probably there's a few different things that can occur. But yeah, there's definitely dangerous technologies in this game, and I love it. Idealistic Foundation. Citizen pop happiness is definitely tempting, but that seems to be a little bit of a... That also seems to be a little bit of a cop-out. Environmentalist is very tempting because of the reduction to consumer goods costs. Cutthroat politics, monthly influence, that's more of a temporary problem I have right now. Not going to bother with Shadow Council because I always let the elections go through. Parliamentary system, faction influence gain plus 50%. Because I'm going to be incorporating xenophobic pacifists, I'm almost certainly not going to do that. Efficient bureaucracy is kind of tempting because of my core sectors, but I sort of like the fact that the AI is managing so much of my empire. And functional architecture, which is a decrease to building costs. What happens if I add oligarchy? So aristocratic elite. Governor recruitment cost minus 50%, empire leader capacity plus 4. So tempting, but not really. So Beacon of Liberty, this is a nice big long-term bonus. So we're looking at about... I guess, what would that work out to be? Something like 24? Another 24 a month? So, just as a baseline, because I mean this thing, it scales, so I just want to put it in. So in practical terms, where's my calculator? So sorry guys, I know. So basically what I'm doing is 14,547 divided by 161. So I'm looking at 90 months here, which the game already told me. And then 14,547 divided by, I said we're getting 24 more a month, so that's 185. Okay, so 78 divided by 90. So that's about a... I mean, I was a little silly doing that because all I needed to do was take 15% of the 90 months, but... So in practical terms, I'm knocking 4 months... Oh, no, I'm not knocking 4 months off of this. What am I saying? So it's basically a year that I'm knocking off getting my next. I mean, that's good, but I think I just don't quite see how not going for environmental is. So the big thing here is that this supercharges my minerals. So watch what happens here. 231, 278. So like what I can do with that is I can just build like another Autothon monument. It's a nice way of just sort of dealing with the scaling problems that come from the introduction of consumption. So I'm not sure that was the best choice, but it's the one that I made. I'm gonna live with it. All right, Akamar Prime. Oh yes, we were trying to decide what we're doing bot-wise on this one. So in terms of Mishar jobs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. There's going to be way too much of a food surplus here, but I'm okay with that. So basically I just want 2 more Mishar on this planet because I'll generally be unhappy on it. And let's get things started with... Okay, similar story. I'm not going to be able to afford this, unfortunately, but 1, 2, so 1, 2, 3, maybe 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, there's really only 4 spots for these Mishar to work. I feel like this should be... I should definitely be filling this up with drones. See, I'm gonna give it a... Well, I mean, I can start building them now, but... So basically, the idea here... Hey, achievement unlocked, digging deep. This is why I like playing these games on Iron Man, because I generally don't reset what I'm doing on... I generally don't reset like what I'm doing on stream anyway, and I shouldn't be doing this. Oh, earthquakes on Trappist Secundus. There has been a wave of earthquakes on Trappist Secundus recently, and buildings in several of our settlements have collapsed with many fatalities as a result. Subterranean alien empire is excavating a new cavern deep underground where they plan to build a new city, and this appears to be the source of the earthquakes. So we can turn the other cheek, or we must demand an apology. Well, you know what? We helped them with food, so yeah, we're not taking this lying down.
System survey complete.
Okay, so all Mishar jobs. So we're gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in total. I'm not sure I'm gonna have enough food, to be honest. Oh, I've got another colony ship. All right, this one's post Mishar. I think I might have misjudged how many of these things I need. This thing's going to be draining my my energy resources for a bit, so I better find a good use for it. Well, I mean, I can give over one of my one of the planets I'm not using, so let's, I guess we'll go and expand out to Ashamax. The tricky thing that I have now is where I want to get my adjacency bonuses. So here is a bit of a mineral priority with some engineering, whereas this is a little bit more energy and physics. I think in this case I'm going to go for the energy and physics. I normally kind of like being a bit mineral crazy, but there are definitely some cases where it makes sense to sort of hold back and make sure that you're keeping your basically just to hold back and make sure that you're kind of keeping everything where it needs to be maintenance wise. Like 288.45, I mean, like, I am spending a lot of energy. We used to be higher than 10k, so I can't just assume the energy is going to be lasting forever. But on the other hand, we're in like a very big growth mode right now, so all right, I think I'm just going to do a quick sort of census. Okay, well, you definitely need to upgrade my HQ on the capital. Stenlar 2, I'm keeping as it is. Orib Prime. Okay, so what are we looking at? Again, division between Mishar and Droid. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 Mishar. Probably 11. So the real question here is, what do I do with these empty tiles? I can sort of see some sense in building something like a military academy, because it does give me sort of research, but I think maybe some labs might make sense. Let's get this guy to work that. Okay, so I think the safe thing to say, though, on most of these planets, I'm generally kind of okay with where things are going. I guess the other big one is if there were some buildings I could make that increase happiness.
Research complete.
Oh, here we go. Sentient AI. Evolving intellects, advanced science, not only as subjects of study, but as researchers themselves. We have definitely crossed into a new territory. In this case, I think I'm going to go for the cheap stuff. It is a little tempting to do, you know, like high energy output and that, but I think I need to, oh my god. Sentient combat stimulants. Running sentient AIs through high-intensity combat simulations yields valuable insight into potential optimizations for risk evaluation techniques. Thing is, it's 68 months versus proton torpedoes, which are 32, so I don't want to go, again, I don't want to assume that I'll just keep a technological advantage forever. Combat sims, I believe.
Construction complete.
Oh, I've got an idle construction ship. Oh yes, and got a new, oh yes, the droids. Okay. So the droids can go on to this planet. Standardizing workflows for upgrading, retrofitting ship components can lead to massive efficiency gains. Exactly what I wanted. So at this point, I'm just going to do Frontier Health because it's so inexpensive to get. Living State is also sort of tempting, especially with the bonus to the influence. What does that cost me? 23 months versus the 8. Yeah, but I mean, we've been ignoring Frontier Clinics for so long, and it might actually be something that unlocks a better technology, so... I don't have money for my... What? Oh, because I don't own it. Alright. Do I currently have a mandate? I do not. I'm also tempted to do a slight adjustment to my current research policy. So right now I've got some science ships which are currently assisting research. I'm a little curious, so let's watch these bars up here. I've got 176, 181, 175. Let's see what happens if I automate their research. I mean, I'm only losing single digits. So in this case, I'm actually gonna get my science ships to start doing a little bit more active, take a little more active role in exploration. All right, I said next I was gonna build 10 corvettes, so.
Construction complete.
One off. Alright, so Stenlar has finished making all of its colony ships. We should probably see some improvements in energy fairly quickly. So we'll be at what? 211, 221, and then we've got 43. Well, before we do any of this, let's start upgrading. I basically want all of my spaceports to be sort of on a level playing field. There'll be a reason for that that's apparent, but well, maybe I'll talk about it now. So like what I'm trying to do here is I want to get all of my spaceports in sort of a state that I'm happy with. I want to get them into I want to get them all to the level 4, because basically when you're at level 4, you build corvettes and destroyers. So what I'm trying to do for my fleet composition, rather than thinking, you know, oh, this is the best type of thing to build because, you know, reason 1, 2, and 3 or whatever. Like, basically, how do I put this? Like, rather than trying to like guess what the the theoretical optimum is in terms of spaceports are, what I'm trying to do is saying is like, okay, well, up to spaceport level 4, you're only building corvettes and destroyers. So I'm gonna, all of the naval capacity that I have right now will be from all of my spaceports across my empire being at level 4. And then when I move to level 5, I'm only going to build cruisers. And that's basically going to be saying, it's like, I'm going to assume that I've maxed out my fleets throughout this playthrough, and that I'm just sort of building to fill the space. I have no idea if that's even remotely sensible in terms of how to play this game, but that's kind of the approach that I've taken. And what I'm going to wind up doing is, like, even for the ones that the AI controls, I'm going to be I'm basically going to be forcing it to move up to level 4 spaceports. I mean, the drawback is if it does something sneaky and gives me a level, a level 5 that I didn't realize. But ecological adaptation allows us to terraform inhabited planets. There's a couple of other things that I want to consider here as well. So there's Hydroponics Farm 3. Now this doesn't seem like a very important one for me to research right now. So one thing I'm doing right now is picking some cheap technologies that allow me to just sort of fill in some gaps that I had in my research before. But there's a very important reason why I want a Hydroponics Farm 3. So let's take a look at Oros right now. Okay, so it's generating a surplus of 5 food. Right now I've got an empire surplus of 87 food. Now it's cool that I get a 15% speed of population growth. I mean, it's really great for filling out these planets. It's, again, like I said, it's sort of the venture cap. By the way, Nate Kenning, I'm sorry, I don't think I said hi to you earlier, but welcome. So sort of the plan has been, you know, take this this venture capital model of sort of colonizing planets. It's like, you know, build things up to where I think they need to be, and then just sort of hand it over to a manager to sort of maintain. And of course, if we just take a quick look at the sector, it's doing fine for itself. The energy credits are maybe a little low, but it's like no worse than what I have. But I mean, they're generating, you know, 120 a turn and 47 energy. Actually, one thing I have done, it seems that I've put quite a bit. It seems like I've put quite a bit of burden on it in terms of minerals, because you notice here they've got like a big. They've got a big energy stockpile, but they don't have that much in terms of minerals. So I think probably what's been happening here is all these colonies that I've wound up building for them, they're spending to try and make it work. But again, that's sort of like short-term pain in exchange for some pretty nice bonuses. And I mean, one thing that's going to be happening too, like when I finish developing Oreb, right? They're going to be able to, like, that's going to be something that's pure profit for them. Stenlar, very similar story. So Stenlar 2 is basically done. Stenlar Prime is I mean, it's on its way. But like once I've sort of seeded it, all they're going to need to do is maintain it. So that's going to be some things that are improving their position as well. And then of course I turn around and make make some things for me. All right, now I was talking about this before. So this is an observation post. So right now we've got Clat. This is a species that is not spacefaring. So they're basically in the equivalent of the Middle Ages. Lots of volcanoes, you know, there's angry gods over here. There's like frozen icy wastes. There's things that eat you over here. And we've got some gods watching them right now, i.e. me. The civilization is currently experiencing the equivalent of the late medieval age. They have a firm grasp on metallurgy, and the invention of the printing press has started to benefit the spread of knowledge. Well, if we want, we can do aggressive. So right now we are doing passive observation. The natives are studied unknowingly from a safe distance, and every effort is made to avoid cultural contamination. We can do aggressive observation. So the natives are aggressively studied, and live specimens are frequently collected to learn as much as possible about their biology and culture. Of course, this is an absolutely inspired graphic for this. We've got indoctrination. Through subtle influence of their society and culture, the natives can be brought around to our way of thinking. We could do technological enlightenment. An effort is made to rapidly elevate the native civilization to the space age. The time that it takes is dependent on their current level of technology. When complete, this mission will turn into a spacefaring civilization that is our protectorate. Or covert infiltration. Agents are genetically modified to appear as members of the native population and sent to infiltrate the society. They will gradually replace world leaders and prepare the planet for annexation by us. This complex operation is only worthwhile on industrial civilizations. When complete, this mission will annex the planet and give the natives a large but temporary happiness boost. So, what we're missing is, so first of all, they don't have the right technology. And we don't have gene tailoring. So right now we're going to get a society bonus by doing aggressive observation. We're materialists. We have, we don't hold this particularly sacred. And I have something of an inclination to, to infiltrate them when the opportunity comes up. Just getting a quick peek at my territories. So just for my own sanity, what I'm going to be doing is going through each of these planets, and I'm going to be doing like the pick and shovel work on building these spaceports. I'm going to go from the top down. I don't know any other way to do this that doesn't make me want to just, you know, blow my brains out trying to hunt down the ones that I've missed. So in the meantime, I mean, I'm just going to fill in Corp. Actually, I probably shouldn't do that, but ethic changes. There has been a sweeping change in the ways the primitive Aurasians... Sorry, in the ways of the primitive Aurasians since we began aggressively observing members of their species over Clat. Their hatred on our abduction shuttles has made them extremely mistrustful of anything they consider foreign, while at the same time strengthening the bonds they feel towards their own culture and species. So we've probably turned them into xenophobes. This is why the Prime Directive exists. It's a little Star Wars reference for you guys who... Science Officer Ilma Smicton has leveled up and gained the trait Resilient.
Construction complete.
So, I mean, the way I see this is, I will happily incorporate them into my society, but I am absolutely not willing to give up territory. So it's like, you know, we'll be one big happy family, but we will be one big happy family, you know, in the Mishar. Was it the cooperative I called it? Yeah. All right. Let's think about the next couple of steps. So, I mean, things are kind of moving along where I want them to. We're definitely generating a very large food surplus. One of the things I'm willing to do an early upgrade on is the monuments. The main reason for that is that the more unity I get, the faster I get those traditions. And you may have noticed, oh, the Hanmur Interstellar Nation has declared war on the Jurin. Well, I could... See, this is a funny thing, right? So these guys are inferior. One thing that I suppose I could have done was, like, guaranteed their independence. I'm a little curious. So I don't think I could just turn around and, like, try and vassalize these guys in one go. But God, it is really tempting to just, like, throw my weight around and try and take out... By the way, Jess, I'm very disappointed that you didn't react to my Star Wars troll. So yeah, I mean, the conquest question is a big one for me. I'm really hesitant to do anything that involves a war while I'm at this big influence loss. You've learned that if you react, it gives... Ah, damn it. Well, looks like I can't be a bully anymore. It was nice while it lasted. I'm thinking probably what's going to wind up happening here. So with these guys, they're wary. Xenophobes and militarists. So I think in this case, like basically, like if we were to declare war on them,
Construction complete.
like,
System survey complete.
so that would like cost me 51. So yeah, I mean, the biggest problem on these would just be actually doing the invasion.
Construction complete.
All right. I need to think about my military. All right, that's gonna cost me 700 to pull off. I don't really want to do that, so I wish it had. Oh, here we go. That's a nice composition. So 50 core, 122. Honestly, I think probably what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna continue this division between corvettes and destroyers. So I have got 18 that I need to fill. It always winds up dividing in a weird way, so in this case I'm going to make up the difference in a slightly different way, so it's going to be 4 destroyers. So that takes me... Wait, that doesn't make sense. Okay, let me think about this again. So I've got... Oh, it's 38. What am I doing? Clearly it's that hour. Right, so I've got 38 to work with. So in this case, 19 of those points go to my destroyers, which I either round down to 9 or round up to 10. So I owe you 15 corvettes. I feel like I did this wrong. Yeah, 15 seems too high. God. All right, one more time. 222, 260. So that leaves me 38. Divided by 2 is 19. Divided by 2 is 9.5. So yeah, 10 corvettes. You know what? I'm going to watch the VOD on this, and I'm going to be like, yeah, that's where you made the mistake. Why did you need to pull out your calculator for that? But anyways, we're all good. So we've got 5 right now. So we are going to do, we're going to be at 232. We're going to build 5 more. So that's 242. So at 242 to 260 means we need 18 more. Yes, 18 more. In 18 corvettes, 5 destroyers, and a partridge in a pear tree. God, I have no idea why that took me so long. By the way, so there's one thing I should mention too on my science ships, and I feel like I'm missing one. I'm sure I probably missed one, and I'm like one vanished in an event somewhere that I wasn't paying attention to. But with my science ships, actually I can tell this. Nope, I'm at my leader cap. Although I have some governors which are available. So I always like sorting by output where I can. Right. Unidar civilization encountered. We have detected the presence of a primitive alien civilization on Frit in the Mendoc system. They are presently in what could be considered the late medieval age, with a firm grasp of metallurgy and feudal society. The printing press is accelerating the spread of knowledge. We should consider building an observation post above their world to study them more closely, because that worked so well with the last one. I need to... All right. So we've got non-aggression pacts, got some colonies being established. I've got a big hit to my energy for some reason. one that's like has me worried, to be honest. Oh, but you know what? Yes, it's because I have a 10% hit to my Empire energy generation, which means something now. All right. So, is Oreb ready to give up? Not exactly. It kind of is and it kind of isn't. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say, okay, so out of the possible candidates, what is the most ready to give up? Stenlar, Prime... Well, one isn't so bad, and then I don't understand this inefficient planet management. Oh, it's probably because I don't have a governor assigned. You know what? There's not a whole lot of ways that the AI can really screw this one up. So I think at this point we will now add Stenlar to the sector. Let's see what happens. There we go. Alright, so let's just take a quick look at this. I need to be in this menu anyway to set where my governors and all that are going. Holy crap, we got a 127-year-old cyborg who's managing my huge sector. Alright. So they're rebuilding their mineral stockpile. They're generally okay for numbers, so I'm not too worried about this. Again, for me, in terms of output, I'm going to assign... I'm basically going to assign whatever governors I can. I'm trying to double down on high... sort of the high producing ones rather than drag up the others. So we're back to our cap. Probably don't want to be building any more colonies for the next little while. I think it would be better just to let things sort of grow. We're also going to need to digest our vassal. I think that's going to be done. It's still going to take a while. Fair enough.
Construction complete.
But yeah, I think what's gonna happen here is I'm gonna hit a point where I look at one of my planets and say there is nothing more that I can do here. And at that point I will, I'll turn around and I'll start looking for some more colonization options. I mean, realistically, there's nothing sort of down in the south here. There are definitely going to be some options out here. I think this was just... Let me get back to building my fleets, actually. 5 destroyers. Well.
Construction complete.
Nope. The Star Nation, formerly known as the Duran Coalition, has been destroyed by its enemies. How this will affect the political climate of the galaxy remains to be seen. So that is the Han Moor gobbling up neighbors. Again, these guys I don't have a huge worry about right now because I have major advantages over them. But let's just take a quick look at the difference here, right? So I have got... on the species rating. So I got 26 systems. Neighbors, so 7, 13, 12, right? So the big thing to notice here is that this neighbor has got the most potential. Out of all of them, they have the most worlds, and for whatever reason, they just haven't developed them as well. Maybe because they've just been doing too much war. But it is entirely possible that I'm going to wake up one day and these guys are going to have a big army and they're going to be able to take me on. So one of the things that I might, so there's one of two things that I can consider, right? So I can take a look at victory conditions. So I want 40% of habitable planets. There's certainly no shortage to me. Actually, I'm curious if it tells me how many there are. So 33 out of 85. So one way I can sort of look at this, right, is I can blob out in my current sphere of influence. This would require breaking some defensive pacts, which means that these guys might start allying with each other. That's one of the big worries. Like right now, I've been able to get away with a lot because I've been able to build on the fact that I have neighbors that I get along very well with. Now, one advantage I have is that I'm basically right next door to their capital. So I can take advantage of the fact that I've got a big, scary navy which can just fly in, you know, beat the crap out of their, defenses, and you know, it's at that point it's, you know, vassalization or annexation. Probably what would have to happen is like I do one big hit where it's like, you know, I take like a big bite, something like this. But what happens then, of course, is that they take their, you know, they have several turns with which to rebuild, and there's a rivalry that's built up. I'm kind of curious. Yeah, so these guys are... I mean, one thing I could do is guarantee independence. That costs me influence, so I'm not going to do that right now. The worry I have at the moment is that they go to war with these guys. And actually, I don't know what the worst option is. If I go to war with them and the Commonwealth decides to go to war, because that, see, what that does is that takes down a rival, but that also, that strengthens somebody who actually has the capacity to make war with me. I'm not at all worried about the Hulfair, and the Hulfair is in a tough spot. So they, like they're relatively weak, and they don't have a lot of expansion options. I mean, they've done their best. They've definitely gone to planets that they can, but I mean, I was kind of nasty and cut off this colony. Yeah, I definitely have some decisions to make in terms of where I'm taking some of this.
Research complete. System survey complete.
All right, new hydroponics farm. I never did explain why I went for farms, but I'll be able to explain that quickly. Hey, Freighter 5. I'm tempted here just to go for the living state, because in that case I can either hire some more governors, or I can either hire some more governors, or I can get some more science ships out. So one of the reasons why I got rid of the... Hey, thank you very much for the bits. Yeah, this is funny. All my Canadian viewers have to pay me in US dollars, despite the fact that I would be using those in Canada. Oh, this is really interesting. So the Inari apparently decided to expand out. I mean, this isn't bad for me, because it just means that I'm going to incorporate these in my system, or my empire. So anyways, the reason why I sent these science ships out on like automated exploration, although again, I'm flabbergasted in terms of what happened to one of my science ships. Because like clearly I'm at my cap as far as leaders are concerned. And I don't have any idle... Like I don't have anything idle. I just always thought I had 4. Anyways. So the idea here is I get a bonus. I get like a percentage of my my research each time I explore a system. So rather than giving a boost to a single system which is generating research output for me, what I'm doing instead is I'm expanding the number of things that can explore the universe. Now, I mean, this is going to be tough because there's like ones that I have like closed borders with. So the ideal here right now is to try and keep as many, basically as many friendly relations as I can until I've mapped the entire universe. That way I get all the bonuses, and then I move my science ships more towards assisting research. But for now, the strategy with the science ships has been to get them out, get me some intelligence, and then also get me those bonus research points. The reason why I did the hydroponics farm, so I'm going to upgrade this one. I'm not going to upgrade this one, though, and you'll see why in a minute. I really hope they do like a follow-up to the... technically we're not humans. We are the post-Mishar. The Mishar look very human. They... Oop. I can never remember where the race traits are. In this case, they're intelligent cybernet. Why can I not remember the traits that I gave these guys? Anyways, yeah, they're human-like, but not actually human. So we've got proton torpedoes. So Zero distillation looks really neat. 50% FTL speed bonus, sensor range bonus. In terms of inexpensive technology, so 54 months versus 34 months, but we're definitely in a case where I would like some more energy, so as much as it pains me to do this, I am going to do the planetary power grid. Oh yes, we've also researched sentient AI, so the robot overlords are mere minutes away. All right. I hate to do this, guys. I am going to pause one more time just because I think now I'm just going to spend recklessly and get these things tucked away. I got a monument, so I need to decide what I want to do with these areas. And can't build the zoo yet. I feel like I got a little excessive on the droids here, but we'll kill that. We'll build a farm here so people don't starve. Oh, that's right. I blocked this all off so that I didn't have to worry about too many Mishar coming on here and being unhappy. Okay, I think I'm okay with the way this is set up for now. Although I'm gonna eventually switch these things out for mining. I might as well do that now. I have to do at least one Nexus because that'll give me a Unity bonus. And mine. So basically what I'm just trying to do here is set myself up for the next couple of turns so I don't need to think too much about what's going on on these planets. Now, one mistake I made on this planet was I did not get, I was not building drones. Lots of energy opportunities here, which is great. This is actually I'm gonna make this a Mishar heavy world, so we'll build an energy grid here. Build a droid here. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. But yeah, this is what I'm happy to sort of leave for the humans. And I forgot to clear the tile blockers again. This is why I don't mind pausing in games like this just to take a minute to clear my head and think about what I'm doing. And more or less automatically now I build the monument. Let's put this guy here and we'll get a droid working the tile. Not quite sure what I want to do with this planet yet. Alright, now with the leftovers, 1, 2, 3, 4. I owe you 14, 12 Corvettes. And I mean, by then, we'll probably be at like some new cap, but these things, receiving transmission from the independent space station, the Rigan Commerce Exchange. They appear to have successfully translated our language. It's a nice little boost to our influence at a time when we're not making any. I speak on behalf of the Rigan Commerce Exchange. We have facilitated trade negotiations between interested parties and our starbase in the Upsloth system for more than 1,000 of your years. If you happen to possess more minerals or energy than you need, we are more than willing to take it off your hands. You will be duly compensated, of course. Well met. So I'm pretty happy with how this is working for me right now. I don't feel any need to build any of that out, but good to know I have the option, I suppose.
System survey complete.
I owe you 11 Corvettes. One nice thing about my current fleet, I mean, so one thing that's going to suck is the cost of upgrading everything, but that's, I mean, that's a known factor. But I am going to be able to take... So I'm at a point now where even if I just engage these guys straight on in a fair fight, I would be able to overwhelm them. I'm not going to try that. I am still going to try and take it on like a normal battle. But it is sort of a it's potential that I have. All right, now here's the reason why I did the upgraded hydroponics farms. So right now we're generating 41 minerals. We're generating 19 energy. I'm generating a surplus of 6 food. So right now this is generating 6 food as well. And I guess one of the big points that I would make here is that I now have a whole new tile which I can dedicate to whatever else I'd like. So in this case, we will replace it. Now, the one drawback is there's a droid here, and I don't think we can just... Oh, I can resettle droids. I didn't think I had that... I didn't think I had permission to do that, but I wonder if it... Yeah, I can. That's even better. I'm not going to, though, because right now I'm generating 41. Let me just double check we've got here. So we've got a bunch of mining networks. The one thing we don't have is... Are you kidding me? Yeah, mineral processing plants, so 10% bonus to minerals. So basically the idea here is you can reach a certain level of technological advance. So like, this is the idea, one of the constants that you're going to have in that. So early game, right, you've got very few pops and you've got like almost limited expansion space. Whereas on my capital now, I have no expansion space, and the question is, how am I using these tiles, right? Is there any way that I can improve the use of these resources? Well, one thing right now is I'm generating a huge surplus of food. Like there's no way I should be using this much. And so what I've done, again, I don't like throwing things in, I generally like somewhat self-contained planets just because it helps me when I'm doing like my sector management and stuff like that. Like all of a sudden I don't like move one planet into a sector and like, oh my god, I just lost all of my production. Within reason, right? Like there are some points where clearly like there's a planet which is designed to be an energy specialist, but you know, it's a bit of give and take on these things. But basically here, because I now have my surplus of 6 food, I know I can afford to switch out this this farming. And like one thing that I'll basically be doing on a lot of the planets that I own, I'm going to be keeping an eye and saying, it's like, okay, what is the food consumption like right now? And is there a way that I can sort of turn around and turn this into something that maybe, you know, maybe I don't need to be generating so much food right now. And is there a way I can, you know, I can turn that into something else that I need? So like in this case here, I'm generating 5 food, and then eventually these things are going to get upgraded. So it's entirely possible that, like, I'm sure I'm going to turn this one into a lab or something. But basically what's going to happen to a lot of these tiles is eventually the farm gets flipped out for something different. It doesn't happen to all of them, and like in the end I'm probably going to have a big surplus anyway, which will just help me with my growth rates. But the principle is that eventually through the acquisition of of new farming technologies, I'm going to be able to have a stronger industrial base. Basically doing more with less. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, I owe you 6 Corvettes. Again, this isn't necessarily the best option here because I am tying up a bunch of resources that could be otherwise spent. For instance, I could be building a spaceport here. Have a good one, Nubasaur. I hope you had a good time. Thanks for stopping by.
System survey complete.
I think one of the things I'm going to start doing as well, when I give up Oreb, which I feel like is coming soon. The United Jessenac systems will now guarantee the independence of the United Jasnian Authority. Oh, interesting.
Research complete.
So by going to war with, I missed my opportunity. I should have taken these guys out when I could have. All right, we got battleships now though, so that'll come in handy. Let's do fighter wing really quickly. So what are these guys looking at in terms of their threat? I mean, the one thing is they might have written a check that they can't afford. There's a side of me that's tempted to just say, it's like, okay, let's see what you're made out of. But if anything, I want to fill out my military. But yeah, so the idea here, 6 Corvettes. Damn it. Just one more. But yeah, so the temptation here. I mean, the other funny thing that I could do would be like, you know, I don't have any treaty with them, right? So, the ISS Pathfinder reports that the dominant species on Drom 2 are a race of fairly large serpents who have risen to the top of the food chain by virtue of their great, albeit animal, intelligence. Science officer Pierre Devel claims to see many similarities between their state and the latter stages of post-Mishar evolution before we became sentient. We might be able to uplift these lesser beings with the right technology. Yes, we have that knowledge. So this, I'm curious, like, am I able to build an observation post on this? No? Is this a special project? No. Alright, well. Let's see. I just want to do a quick search through the things I've already looked for. I'm mildly disappointed the horizon signal has not triggered. Oh, Upsloth. Size 13. I think that's is a fairly good argument for me to investigate that. Here we go. I blew it. And this guy, before he does any automation... Oh, he's investigating. What are you doing? All right. You survey here. Wait. Ah, bloody... It's got to be some kind of cancel orders. Anyways, auto explore, Pathfinder. Stop doing that. I don't get why it's picking this auto guy. The ship is already performing this order. Alright. I won't question it. And hopefully at some point somebody bothers to explore this planet, because even though it's size 13, it's a planet and it brings me closer to victory. I probably should at some point find out what I'm doing on this planet, but... Alright, my debt is paid. I will figure out what I'm doing with my navy shortly after. This is mildly disappointing to see just level 2 on this, but I know it's punching above its weight in terms of its, like, the bonus that it's giving. I hope it is anyway. Maybe I made the wrong decision on that. Okay, Oreb. I don't think there's a lot extra I can do on this. I think I'm really just waiting on colonists to arrive, and then eventually I need to figure out what I'm doing with these food tiles. I'm not worried about Mishar showing up yet. Oh yeah, I've got way too many farms on this planet. It's like I've got space for 24. Well, no, I mean 3 farms. I think 3 farms is okay now that I think about it. Definitely not developing these though. So I have 3, 4, 5, probably like 5 tiles where I definitely need more Mishar, so I'm okay letting Orb just sit. Here, big surplus for food, but we've got 1, 2, 3, at least 4 more Mishar coming in. I don't think I have an energy nexus yet, so build one of those. So that means we definitely need. So we're done for droids on this planet. The rest are going to be Mishar, which is not great because I don't like. You know, I don't like these guys get happiness decreases. I'm not 100% sure what's causing this. So I'm assuming it's just because of the type of planet, which is something we can fix eventually once we get the right technology. This place. So I need to find something for this person to do. Energy grid seems like the right option here. Science for them. Oh, but I don't have the money for it. So science, then I can build a farm. Yeah, so science, science, farm, mine, energy grid. I guess I can build like a power plant. So we're done for droids there. I think we already went with Akamar. Something like Akamar I don't really want to keep inside of my my empire. I think once I get a pop growth, I'll probably divest myself of that. Here, the obvious step is to start building up some power plants and such. This is absolutely a planet that was designed to get an energy nexus. Although I think I already built one. It always makes me cry to see Mishar working food tiles. At least this one's generating minerals. But... Nope. Idle construction ship. Shame on me. Let's get you to get more minerals. Again, this is the first time since we introduced Utopian Abundance that we're breaking 300, so I'm happy with that. Obviously, I can start evaluating my my spaceports and such, but it's nice. In this case, I just kind of want to get a bit of an idea in terms of where I'm sitting with my various technologies. I don't find it particularly wasteful to build on a location where like somebody's growing, so like a Mishar here. I'm not too worried about building some kind of a. I'm not too worried about building something there, just because I know there will be somebody to grow, or there'll be somebody to work it fairly quickly. What I don't like doing though is like for all these empty ones, like if I started building like science here and just having it sort of sit idle for the longest time, that's a little too wasteful for my taste. So what I'll usually do I'll build the drones because, or the droids, because it keeps the Mishar from taking up spaces which I don't want them to. But when it comes to building things that are generating resources, like here, I'm totally fine having the science lab being here, because in the end, that's just, you know, that's just a matter of time before that guy grows and starts working on it. That's a sure thing. And so I'm only losing, like, you know, how many months does it take for this guy to come out? Like, probably, well, I mean, 20 months is still, like, that's a year. That's still definitely time I could be using it. So maybe I should reconsider that policy. But, like, again, like, the idea here is the alternative is that I have a resource that isn't being worked, an unemployed pop, and the, you know, then I have to wait X number of months while they don't generate anything, which is not so good either. So, a small short-range transmitter has been located on the surface of Pythria 2b. It appears to be an ancient survey marker placed here eons ago to mark a large deposit of precious metals. The miners it was meant for evidently never arrived, as the deposit is still here. I mean, I wouldn't build a frontier outpost for it, but I definitely hope that my I hope that my borders grow out. What are we looking at? Oh God.
System survey complete.
I also need to remember to build my solar panel networks. The other thing I should be doing on my space station, so it shouldn't just be solar panels, like there's tons of other things that I can do, like
Research complete.
what was the observatory is another really good one. All right, living state. I'm gonna need to think a bit about that. I don't think I'm gonna hire anybody just because we're still waiting on. I mean, we're back to a surplus, but I don't think I should be. I don't think I should be messing around too much with my influence. So hostile environment adaptation's really tempting because of the bonus habitability. That might be enough for me to turn some of these red worlds to yellow ones. I don't have a lot of examples of red worlds anymore, which is good news for me because I have a feeling that the other species are not able to expand like that. I think it was this planet. Nope. Oh, maybe it was the Tundra world. It couldn't be though, because these guys are living on it. Apparently we can live anywhere now. The Ministry of Benevolence. Unique. Bonus to governing ethics. Minus to unrest. Tempting. I prefer it to Frontier Hospital. But anything that takes 80 months to research kind of makes me sad. So we will do... Well, you know what? I don't want to do this. I don't want to do hostile environments because as cool as it is to have a bonus to habitability, that's what drones are for right now. So against my better judgment, I'm going to do one more down that path of frontier hospitals. And if I don't get anything good, then I'm just going to bite the bullet and go for like a good, like a nice big, like a juicy tech, even if it takes me a long time to research it. All right. I know we're at about the 3-hour mark, which means I'd be leaving early on you guys again. Or not again, because I think I did 4 hours last week, didn't I? I might be wrapping it up here though, because I don't know if there's a whole lot of extra stuff that I can do. It seems to me it would be better overall if I So I think it's slightly preferable if at the beginning of a stream I do a lot of this sort of maintenance kind of stuff, because that gives people a time to sort of come in. I tend to notice that the back half to my Stellaris casts tend to be a little bit more popular than the start. So I think if I'm able to do some more of the management stuff, if people want to see that, they'll still be able to go to the VOD. But if people want to see like the action, so like when I go to attack these things and that, like especially if I start the stream with it, especially because like I'm not always, I'm not the most prompt in terms of getting stuff started. It probably wouldn't hurt to, maybe save some of this for later.
Construction complete.
Is there a colony ship somewhere I don't know about? Oh no, it's just these solar panels. Okay. I can live with this.
Research complete.
Alright. These manned short-range strike craft are launched from a mothership, and they rely on their speed and small size to survive long enough to punch through enemy defenses. So, we might do crystal-infused plating, depending on what other options are. I don't really use missiles, so quantum missiles aren't the most exciting. Advanced mineral processing seems like the best option, especially because I've been building some more mineral processing plants. I haven't done autocannons. I feel like I should go down that path just in case, but I don't think I'm going to outfit too many of my battleships with stuff like that. So what we'll do instead, we'll take a quick look at where I'm sitting with my fleets. So we've got 2 more corvettes coming up, so we'll be at 260. We've got 296, so that's 36. If we divide it by 2, we get 18, so that's 9 destroyers, 18 corvettes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That took me less effort. And then, I mean, obviously still we need to pay an arm and a leg to like do the huge upgrade. That's kind of slowly lumbering towards me, but one other way that you can sort of think about this, right, is we're saying is like, okay, well, what are my military ambitions? You know, what is it going to take me to do this? It's like, well, we generate 314 a turn. It costs me 290. So if I'm looking for 4 more destroyers, now 3, basically I'm waiting 3 months to be able to afford it, right? So if you think of it that way, like, you know, you get a ship a month, then it's like, well, how many more ships do I need to build in this thing? Well, basically 21, except that realistically it's more like, it's more like 12 because corvettes kind of count as like 2 destroyers. Is that right? 189, 290? It's not exactly half, but yeah, like that's kind of how I think about it. So it's like, how many months am I going to be sitting on this thing? Like, should I go to war now? Am I gonna have to wait a really long time to get my fleet, or, you know, does it make, like, in some cases, like, the question just comes down to, like, does it make sense for me to invest a whole lot in this one goal here? Like, am I going to achieve it in a time that I think is worthwhile? Or should I reconsider something that will maybe be a little more beneficial to me in the long run? I'm investigating here because it's just kind of a corner of the universe, and I'm investigating here because I really want to, I hope and pray that I will get the Horizon Signal event so I can finally show you guys the rest of that story. I realize it sounds like I've got a big crush on Alexis Kennedy. I do not know the man personally, but I can say I really like his writing, and it's not just his game writing. Like, he's got a pretty good column. He wrote I thought a really good piece on the Richard Spencer punching video. which I thought did a very nice job of sort of talking about what's at stake and why there is a very natural tendency for people to like and share stuff like that, but how it doesn't necessarily, the outcomes are not necessarily like ones that people would like, I guess, for lack of a better term. Anyway, like it's a good article. I would recommend reading. It's a Eurogamer. But yeah, the Horizon Signal is just something else. I tremendously enjoy that. That one. All right, so I can do a plasma thrower, which is I would almost certainly not equip on my ships. Or I can do the ion disruptor for a longer period of time, but basically get it out of my queue. I do like specialization. So, I mean, 200% shield damage is not bad. I guess I have to live with it. I don't believe it when I say I need 3 more destroyers. I think let me just double check where we're at. So we're at 264, 266, 8, 270, 72, 74, 76. So then with 18 Corvettes, we would be up to 294 sounds right, actually. So 3 destroyers down. And I owe me 15 Corvettes. This is something of a losing battle for me because this, as these spaceport upgrades keep coming through, this cap is going to keep going up. But again, the idea here is just to get at capacity where I can. What I decide to do with that is a totally different question. I mean, what would be great? One thing I could do is I could go to war with these guys. I could decimate them. And then I turn to annex these guys, because either they're going to be so weak that they don't enforce that protection, or they will enforce the protection, and then presumably I get more claims on them. So, obviously, just because these guys are space communists doesn't mean they have to be the nice space communists. I'm running out of stuff to build. Let's take a look here.
Research complete.
Okay, so lots of options, all very expensive ones. So 33 months, 80 months, 60 months, 99 months. I mean, it's tempting to go for more technology for sure, but my society research is already my strongest one. Cheaper war demands is definitely very tempting in light of the ability to vassal. Well, reduced by 25%. So let's just think a bit about what are we going for if we do that. So vassalization. I don't quite understand why Okay, so 130. I don't think if I reduce that by 125, I'm gonna, or by 25%, I'm gonna get that right. I am gonna use the calculator on that just to be sure, though. Just shy of it. That is a pity. Okay, so yeah, I mean 60 months in order to be able to get closer to a vassalization goal isn't really worth it, whereas a bigger navy obviously will be able to, you know, to enforce that that demand. Obviously this is going to mean I spend more time building up a big, you know, kick-ass fleet, but I'm not particularly sad about that. Because again, we're still waiting on building our cruisers too. All right, power plant. And I feel like I'm actually ready to hand over Akmar to the AI. So where is it? Of course, it's one of these systems that I want to hang on to. Because there's no... See, notice this one's a little tricky for me in the sense that it's... like it doesn't have a direct connection to my doesn't have a direct connection to my the rest of my sector. So this is going to be one I'm probably going to wind up keeping for a bit. So we're going to take a slightly different approach on this one, and we will bother to build up its infrastructure. Probably don't want to get too crazy about this because I've also got fleets to build. 1, 2, 6, 7. Okay, I owe me 8 corvettes. Okay, guys. I think I've fallen into a trap which I don't like in streaming, which is I am explaining what I'm doing less, and I am instead stating what I am doing on the screen more. So like, I mean, I fully trust that you have functioning eyes and you know, you can see what I'm up to. This has definitely been one of those sort of building rounds in terms of Stellaris. So I think what we'll do is we'll pause for a minute. I was kind of hoping to incorporate the Inari Kingdom. They are still 70 months out, so we definitely, unless I want to like speed things up. It is looking like we've identified the major players. So where I'm sitting right now, like the ones I need to worry about in terms of achieving the goals of the game, the United Jessenac Systems, maybe the Hanmur. The other ones don't really worry me right now. Especially, actually, so the Spulak Alliance of States is interesting. Okay, so yeah, there's actually a couple of people who might cause me a little bit of stress. It seems that there's just one stagnant ascendancy. That's a little weird to me. But yeah, so the way I sort of see this going, so my immediate expansion options. I don't have obvious candidates for sort of some aggressive colonization, right? I'm pretty sure Hanmur has claimed what it can in this area here. I kind of want Upsloth. I want Dram. And that's it as far as sort of like things outside of my borders that will expand my borders. I'm going to need to find a good way of sort of incorporating some of these systems that I like are obvious candidates for my sector, but don't maybe aren't how do I put it, like I haven't got. So like what is probably going to happen here is I'm going to put Oreb into the sector. and then maybe like colonize Magram. And then when I put Magram into the sector, Beutra goes in or something like that. What's less obvious to me is whether or not I want to add the Inari, whether or not I want to add those areas into my, whether or not I want to add them into this sector, or whether I want to sort of create a separate sector for them. And what would probably happen there is I would take the territory known or from the United Jezian Authority. But the other like the thing about that is that it creates an arbitrary border between my two sectors, which exists only because there was another player that was there. Like, it's obviously very natural for this just to sort of bleed into all of this. But then that kind of just winds up being this one continuous monster that'll eventually kind of incorporate the others. But I'm not quite sure. I don't have a good plan yet in terms of why I would go for more than one sector. But yeah, so the idea here would be incorporate Oreb, colonize and incorporate Magram, colonize and incorporate Bitura. Sturil seems like a fairly good candidate. Satera. Probably Ashamax. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, population-wise, it's very young, so. Ooh, this is a very good mineral planet, so. I think what I'm gonna do, so there's a lot of very obvious like Mishar areas for me to put in. I'm definitely gonna build like a mineral processing plant. No, I can't. Let's cancel that then. So I'm going to try and make this as sort of mineral heavy as I can because I get the plus 25%. I think all the empty tiles will be so what I want to do here is I want to be very careful in terms of the number of Mishar I let on the planet. I want what are you going to say? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 at the most out of 22. So I can have 5 more that come in. I need to be pretty careful about that. But yeah, so it's not clear whether or not I'm going to add that into the sector. But one way or the other, like basically, I think the logical expansion plans that I have. So claim what I have in terms of victory conditions. So we currently have 33 out of 85. If we're looking for pure numbers, we get 34, 35. I'm including the desert world because if I put droids on it, I can, like, even though it's 35% inhabitability, I can put droids on it. Doesn't matter anymore. So we're up to 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. Once we incorporate these systems, then we have 41 through droids. Uh, 42, 43, oh, well, hang on. Say 41, 42, 43. So that'll be 50. So basically working with what we have or things that are like clearly within our grasp, we can get over the halfway mark. The next logical step then would be to gobble up these worlds. So that adds 3, well, yeah, it should be 3. 4, 5, 6. So then we'd be up to 56. What we would do, either through triggering war with these guys or doing sort of a preemptive strike, we would incorporate some of these worlds. I think well, let's see what we can actually get away with. So let's say we'd want Bovatir to start off with. I mean, it'd be great if I could take their capital, so let's not go for the largest numbers, and instead let's go for some real estate that we can defend. So Nimulan, we'll do Nimulan, Bovatir, and the capital. Hey, Annette, we're actually just finishing up for the night. I'm kind of talking about the next few plans. Oh, it's Bovatir. So I'm curious, I may not be able to request the capital. Oh yeah, yes I can. Yeah, so that would cost me 51, so I could even do more. Oh, thank you very much for the host. Hello everybody from Annette. We're going to be wrapping up soon. But you're welcome to come along with me on the raid. Alright, so in that case, if we take a Nimulan, I think Short and Ygrel would make sense next. And I might be able to get away with Tarak. Yeah, okay. So we'd be able to add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more. So we'd add 6 more to our holdings. So basically, what will happen when I decide to go to war with these guys? 6 more planets to my holdings. I severely weaken an already weak rival. I then gain access to conquer these territories, incorporate these planets into my empire as well. And then at that point, I think there's one of two things that needs to happen. Either I need to find some planets to colonize in between here, because there's going to be like a ceasefire period, obviously. Excuse me. There's going to be a ceasefire period, obviously. Or if I'm particularly warlike. The biggest thing is that I think I am severely discounting how much work I'm going to need to put into like managing all these new colonies. But if I was like really warmongerish, I would probably turn down to, I would have to decide if I wanted to take on the Hulfir, or if I wanted to take on the Hanmur. But I mean, as far as a position, we are pretty great in terms of just like looking at power. The Commonwealth of Otara is the biggest worry that we have, but they've so they had some things that happened inside of their factions, so they became more materialist, which means they like me. They ceased to be warlike, they became pacifists, and so now they are Irenic bureaucracies, which is nice. So we don't have a lot to fear from them conquest-wise. They can't, if they're pacifists, they can't sort of declare wars of conquest on me. So fleet power is a little worrisome, except that their naval capacity is equivalent and they're not able to drag up the fleet. The other thing is that these guys get along with me, so we have it's a slight inversion of priorities, but basically we are fanatic materialists and egalitarians, so I don't have a whole lot to fear from these guys. Again, Hulfir, potential rival, but they're Xenophile and egalitarians, and so far we've gotten along pretty well. I mean, they have been pretty aggressive in terms of absorbing neighbors, but nothing like disastrous. It's really once we get to the people we're already considering going to war with, the Jessenaks, who are the hegemonic imperialists. Those are the people that we are worried about. And it's also worth mentioning that they have a defensive pact. So if I attack them, I also attack the Oxbraxi. These are evangelizing zealots. They hate me, but they're a joke, like, compared to what we have. Like, I'm pretty sure I could sit down, like, I could just leave my entire area undefended, and they would not be able to take on, like, my colonies. This is one thing, too. I'm in a fairly decent defensive position. This is because the AI has built these military stations. But more importantly, like, all of my systems have spaceports. And they're fairly good ones, like they're level 4s. Well, maybe not this one, but like, and I'm going to be actively upgrading them. So anyways, just as a to reiterate, we're going to finish incorporating the Inari Kingdom. Probably what we'll do is we'll do a preemptive war with the United Jessenacs. I mean, it's more of a question of when it's going to happen rather than if. I'll be able to sort of get some groundwork on my my next sort of expansion by taking these guys on. I may even be able to get some concessions from the Oxbraxi, but basically just try and hit them hard, hit them in their capitals. Basically do the same thing that I did to the Inari. The nice thing too is that when I'm done with the second strike force, it's not clear to me whether I want to go from like planet to planet, sort of just destroying space stations, or if I maybe like want to cut this in half. I do think there's something to be said for like having just this massive armada that just stomps things. But once I kind of take these guys out, I'll be able to gobble these guys up. And I think the nice thing too is it's possible if these guys try to defend, I get to go to war with them and extract further concessions. I don't quite know how that works in the game. And then I mean at some point we'll also clear out the prisms, but we can leave them be for now. But yeah, we've definitely got quite a bit that we can take care of. In terms of what we accomplished this game, definitely a lot more expansion. We're the biggest power in the game for sure. I don't think there's a lot of things that can unseat us. I mean, it's possible that there's maybe going to be some like stagnant ascendancy somewhere that's like lurking and it's going to wake up and cause me pain. But there's no reason to believe that by the end of the next couple of playthroughs that we won't be over halfway to the domination victory. If I were to go for conquests, I'm not so sure it's obvious to me that conquest would be faster than domination, particularly with the Panaxila shard. I think what I would probably wind up having to do in that case would be gobble up the Inari, these guys take on the United Jessenac. So like basically this would be a point where I've gotten sort of the, at least in terms of like space, like the north half of the map. And this would be a point where I'm saying is like, well, I like these good relations that I have with these guys, so I'm just going to need to keep like gobbling up potential rivals. And it's not bad, right? Because the Jessenacs are somebody who... so the Jessenacs are hegemonic imperialists. They're a star empire, so I don't like them. The Juvan hegemony, again, star empire, slaving despots. I don't like them. The Oxbraxi, theocratic republic, evangelizing zealots. So the only thing we have in common with them is egalitarianism. The commonality of Forksod. So these guys, again, we're in line with them, but we'd probably want to be in line with their overlords. So I mean, just for sheer numbers, like if I were to gobble up people who I disagree with, we'd be getting 6, 10, 22, 25, and then we'll be adding the 7. So that's like 31 new planets there already. And again, we're already at 33, so all of a sudden, right, 64 out of 85, we just need to find 20 more planets to inhabit, and we've already seen that there's some that we can pick up through there. So I'm fairly certain what we're going to wind up doing is just through a couple of well-timed conflicts, we're going to be able to carve off some nice pieces. We'll be able to claim whatever's in between these areas, and yeah, we'll see what we can do from there. Obviously, if you guys have any questions in terms of how we got to this place, actually, there's one more thing I'm going to do. I owe me 7 Corvettes. Happy to talk about it. This is probably the furthest I've gotten in a Stellaris playthrough, like definitely on cast, but I'm also starting to research some technologies that I haven't seen before. Part of this is just by virtue of the fact that I had such a great start being beside these guys. Like, I did not have to concern myself with military at all for the start of the game, and that was a really strong opening. I'm also really interested in the Mechanist Civic. It feels like that is a particularly strong starting ability. But maybe a conversation left better for another time. I did say for a while that I would be wrapping up for the night. So thank you, everybody. We actually almost made it to the 4-hour mark now. I think the usual suspects are probably going to be playing tonight. So we have got... Yeah, you know what? Kilgore Trout is playing Oblivion. He's probably doing box hype right now. So let's go raid my good friend Kilgore. Oh, sorry, he's doing it on GOG, so we will raid GOGCom. Thanks a lot, guys. I will be back Monday. Or sorry, Wednesday. I will see you all Wednesday.